Wonderful. Welcome everybody to today's Slooh's total solar eclipse star party. I'm so excited to have you all here today to celebrate this event with us. We're going to be over the next couple of hours watching as the sun has the moon cross in front of it. And as the shadow moves across the planet, we get to see this total solar eclipse from Iceland to Spain to the Canary Islands in one afternoon. This total solar eclipse only happens because of a cosmic fluke, with the sun being about 400 times wider than the moon and 400 times farther away, so that they look the same size in our sky. And no other planet gets a show quite like this. So it's really exciting to have everybody here today to watch. Um, a little background for those who are new to Slooh and joining us for the first time today. Slooh has a long history of hosting these star parties and bringing the night sky to the world. Here at Slooh, we really believe that the universe belongs to everybody and everybody needs to have access to it. When we have access to the night sky, we have access to cosmic wonder and awe and connection to each other and better understand ourselves and our planet and our place in the universe. Slooh is a place to watch star parties like this, to watch live feeds of telescopes and satellites, and also to explore and learn more about the universe through our quests and through our guides and through our incredible community. It is a wonderful corner of the internet, and we are so excited that all of you are here today. I want to give it a special shout out and hello to everybody joining us from COSI, the Center of Science and Industry in Columbus. We are so glad that you're with us today and with us on Slooh as part of a special new partnership between Slooh and COSI. It is wonderful to have you joining us, and I'm so glad that you're here for the Star Party and to get to know a little bit more about what we do here at Slooh and about the solar eclipse. Now, a little bit of safety before we begin. Here, we can watch everything through our computer screens, but if you are watching this from a place where you can see any part of the eclipse outside, never ever look at the partial sun directly, not with your eyes, not through a phone, binoculars, or telescope, unless you have certified eclipse glasses or a proper solar filter. This is arguably the safest seat in the house to be able to watch the sun view through Slooh's filtered telescopes. Naked eye viewing during an eclipse is only safe during the brief total phase and only if you're standing inside the path of totality. Over the next 3 hours, we're going to have some incredible, or roughly 3 hours, we're going to have some incredible guests join us to talk about the eclipse from a variety of different perspectives. We have our director of curriculum here at Slooh, John, joining us to talk about quests and how we learn about these things on Slooh. We have our Iceland eclipse chasers. We have experts on darkness and human interaction with darkness. We have experts here to talk about how animals react, a look from the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, and connections to Peoples of Chaco Canyon to close. We're going to be chasing totality twice, once in Iceland, weather permitting, and then also over Burgos, Spain, and then a sunset eclipse in our own Canary Islands telescope, as well as partial views for the final moment of connection called C4 from Greenwich. What you're viewing here right now is Slooh's solar telescope. You can see it through what's called an H alpha filter, which is the hydrogen plasma layer in the chromosphere of the sun. When we look at the sun through that filter, we can see all these features on it, which are what you see as the lines across the sun right now in your own feed. And during the eclipse, you'll be able to, and during this whole session, you'll be able to go onto Slooh and log in and snap images of the sun. And from the Star Party page, you'll be able to snap images from all the different feeds that are happening right now, which you'll learn more about later. For anybody watching on YouTube, if you head over to slooh.com, you can log in there as well with a special offer for the eclipse. We are so excited again to have you all here, and I can't wait to kick off this incredible event. It is really fun to all be watching this eclipse from all over the world together. Today I'm watching from Chicago, and I know we have people from all around the world gathering to watch this special event. So with that, I'm really excited to kick off with our first guest. We're going to have somebody who helps us move from watching into doing. And the person who makes that happen at Slooh is Dr. John. He's been our director of curriculum for more than 5 years and helps build hands-on missions that let anybody learn about the sky using Slooh's telescopes in the Canary Islands, Chile, and Australia. He has a doctorate in astronomy and has an expert in teaching college physics and astronomy and a fascination with the myths that humans have told about the stars for thousands of years. He also designed today's Eclipse Quest. John, welcome. I'm so excited to talk about how people can get their hands on the eclipse today on Slooh.
Thank you so much, Dr. Emma. I'm happy to be here, and I'm all protected, ready to look out the window, even though I'm not really going to see much from where I'm at.
I love it. Protection is always important for eclipses and being able to make sure we protect our eyes. So thank goodness we have Slooh's live streams for that.
Most definitely. It's
Awesome.
going to be
Oh, go ahead.
it's going to be a great show today. I can't wait for to see the eclipse together. I can't wait for all of our guests that we have lined up too.
Amazing. It's going to be a fun couple of hours. So, first, I know we have a lot of people here today who are both experts on Slooh and have been with us for a long time, but we also have a lot of new people who are learning about Slooh for the first time. So, can you start by sharing a little bit about what are Slooh's quests? What are our learning activities?
Definitely. So, Slooh's quests are our interactive learning activities or adventures that members use Slooh's telescopes and satellite feeds to complete. These activities cover fascinating topics not only in science, such as astronomy, computer science, earth science, and physics, but we also have quests that cover fun things like social studies, well, non-scientific things, social studies, history, culture, mythology, art, literature, and even more. We have currently over 120 interactive lessons that challenge members to use Slooh to collect and analyze data and form their own conclusion. What's really cool about these quests is members are scheduling their own missions in the quest, they're capturing objects in the quest, and they're working directly with the data that they capture with the telescopes during the quest. So no two quests are really alike because multiple members may capture different objects, and so everybody's learning about what they're seeing in the telescopes.
That's amazing. What a fun way to, I mean, I'm biased, I say this, but it's a really fun way to learn a little bit more about the night sky and not just look at the pictures, but start to understand what are we actually looking at? What does it mean to look at these objects? How have other people looked at these objects in the past? And then share that with the world. So, with that in mind, is there a special quest for today's eclipse?
There is. We have moments quests for whenever amazing astronomical events happen, like the one today, and it's called the Solar Eclipse 2026 quest. In this one, members learn about the science behind solar eclipses, why they occur, the phases of a solar eclipse, the different types of solar eclipses that are out there, and then they make an epic poster featuring their favorite images snapped from tonight's show. So it's super important as we're watching the show, even now, even though the eclipse hasn't started yet in any of our locations. Actually, I think it's might be started in Iceland pretty soon here, weather permitting. We want to hit this camera icon button to start capturing images from the feeds because this is the only way that you can capture images to complete that quest. So keep on snapping. And we'll talk more about the quest here in a little bit.
Awesome. And in particular, especially for our new observer members, can you talk about what quests observers have access to on Slooh?
Definitely. There are a number of quests. We have 7 quests that observers have access to. There's a number of solar quests. There's our changing sun, which gets you going on how to snap images from Canary 5 solar telescope. We have our closest star, our radiant star. Both of these are multi-day investigations of the sun where you get to see different features, learn about different features. And then we have our rotating star, which is a week-long investigation of the sun, where you actually learn about differential rotation in the sun, how the sun rotates. You make this epic GIF animation, piecing together your 5 images from capturing the sun across a week. You watch the sun rotate and learn all about solar flares, solar storms, the 11-year solar cycle, how aurorae form here on Earth. That one's a really fun one. We also have some non-solar quests that are on the observer learning progression. There's the Sturgeon Moon 2026 quest, which is a quest for this month's full moon. You learn about why it's called the Sturgeon Moon, why these different moons throughout the year are named. But you also learn about the full moon itself. You actually learn a bit about eclipses in this one too. We also have our Slooh 100 challenge quest that observers have access to, which the Slooh 100 is a curated list of the 100 most beautiful objects that you could see in the night sky and capture with Slooh's telescopes. And so this is a collection quest where you want to capture all 100 of those objects. So you got to catch them all to complete that quest. And then, of course, the special quest for today, the Solar Eclipse 2026 quest. That one is also available for observers. But we are also thinking of more ways to add quests to the observers' learning progression. And so there's going to be some more quests popping up here once Slooh's brand new dedicated lunar telescope debuts. So keep an eye out for those.
Yes, we have lots coming for our observer members and for all of our members to stay engaged with the night sky. When you finish a quest, what do you get?
So every Slooh quest culminates in members creating a poster-sized infographic showcasing the images captured with Slooh's telescopes. These posters are actually big enough to print out on plotting printers and hung up on a wall if you'd like to. We've had a lot of examples of classrooms that have these posters up, amateur astronomers who are enthused about completing big collection quests. They print their posters up, and it's really awesome to see. And this here, what you're looking at, are an example of some of our lunar posters. These are posters that serve as summative assessments, and again, members share these on their profiles or as observations. And what's really neat is some of these infographic posters even incorporate responses to questions in the quest. So in Mauna Kea Inca Moon, members learn about three kinds of Inca myths associated with the moon. And so then they're asked which one is their favorite, what's the reason why they're their favorite. Or when members go on the Apollo program quest and they capture images of the moon where the Terminator is near each of the six Apollo landing sites, they put in information about when they capture those images, what was the percent illumination of the moon during those images, and more. So these are personalized infographics and they foster a spirit of accomplishment while providing a fun and easy tool to recall the content that they learn while on the quest. And members also earn badges upon completion of the quest. And these badges are added to your profile, and it looks really awesome to see them all in one place. This is what my profile looks like. And of course, I've completed a ton of quests since that's what I do here at Slooh. I write most of the quests, and so I have to complete them. Um, but not only that, members are earning gravity points from completing the quest as well. In fact, most actions that members perform on the platform, like snapping images from the live telescopes or scheduling missions or basically liking other observations, completing quests, they all earn some amount of gravity points. And these are analogous to experience points here on Slooh. So as members accumulate gravity points, they graduate from different levels that we've named after famous astronomers all throughout history.
Awesome. It's a fun way to engage with the platform, and we love seeing how people compete and earn gravity points. So, where can people find the special quest, especially for tonight?
The one for tonight, they're going to find it by going to the quest page. Under all quests, there is a search bar up here. You could search for solar, and that's going to bring up, or excuse me, search for total solar eclipse, and that will bring up the total solar eclipse quest for you.
Wonderful. So, can you take a few minutes to step through it and let everybody know what they're going to find in it?
Sure. So when you click on the total solar eclipse, you'll get into the quest overview page here, and then we want to hit on start quest. And this brings you to step one of the quest. And it starts off with giving an introduction that this is a moment's quest, that you need to watch the live star party, which is linked right here. And then we get into solar eclipse science and what is a solar eclipse. And one of the reasons why total solar eclipses like we're going to experience today happen is because the moon is near perigee instead of near apogee. So the moon is a bit closer to us, so it's a little bit larger in the sky. And so that's why the moon is going to completely cover the sun during today's eclipse. And so to have a solar eclipse, a total solar eclipse, you need three things to happen at the same time. We need to have a new moon phase. We need to have the moon close to perigee, so that it's big enough to cover the sun. And we need the moon to be very close to what's called a lunar node. And that basically means that the Earth, moon, and sun are perfectly aligned with each other. Now, typically, this doesn't happen because the moon's orbit is tilted 5 degrees with respect to our orbit plane around the sun. So, most of the time a new moon happens, the sun is either going to be right above the sun or the moon's going to be right below the sun. And so it doesn't always cross. If we didn't have this 5 degree tilt in the moon's orbit, we would be having solar eclipses every month, and nobody would be excited when these events happen. But we live in this world. And so when um, solar eclipses happen, we end up having different kinds of shadows being cast by the moon. So this is a really good diagram that shows the how the shadow is cast on the Earth during a total solar eclipse. So here the sun is shining light onto the moon, and there's this black dot that you could see on the Earth. This is the moon's umbral shadow. And if you're within this shadow, you'll be able to see the total solar eclipse. If you're not within this shadow, if you're in this what's called the penumbral shadow, then you're going to be seeing what's called a partial solar eclipse. And so as this shadow, the umbral shadow sweeps across the Earth, we're going to see a partial eclipse first, basically the moon moving towards the sun. And then once we're in totality, that's when we're within the umbral shadow. Now, sometimes though, the moon is a little bit further away from us. And when that happens, we end up having what's called an anti-umbra. And if this ends up happening, we don't see a total solar eclipse. We see what's called an annular eclipse. We'll see the disk of the sun, and we'll see the moon in front of it, and we'll see what looks like a ring of fire in the sky. So those are the three kinds of eclipses: total solar eclipses, ring of fire eclipses, or annular eclipses, and partial eclipses. And so tonight or today, we're going to be seeing a total solar eclipse. And the quest also goes through the 5 different stages of a total solar eclipse. So it starts off with the partial eclipse, where we just start to see the moon moving onto the sun's disk. That's called C1. And then the second stage occurs when the moon finally covers the entire solar disk and totality begins. So then stage three is this period of totality where we're going to see the beautiful corona surrounding the sun, things that we don't normally see when we look at the sun with our telescopes. Once the moon completely passes the sun and we start to see a little bit of the sun's disk again, then we've reached third contact, C3. This is the end of totality. And then the fifth and final stage is called fourth contact, and this is when the moon leaves the sun and they go their separate ways again. What's really nice about this quest is it shows this global visibility map, and this allows you to see where the path of totality is. So that black umbral shadow that we saw in the diagram, that's going to race across the Earth's surface, and it's going to be within this blue region here. And so this is where a lot of our streaming partners are in Iceland and the one in Spain. But what's nice is you can also see where the penumbra is going to be, and it's actually going to extend it down into northeastern the United States. And so if you're watching from those locations, you might be able to see it. Now, I really like seeing these animations whenever there's a an eclipse because this shows that previous diagram coming to life, and you can see there's the umbral shadow racing across the Earth, and then you can see the penumbral shadow as well. So, Dr. Emma, you're over in Chicago. You should be able to see a little partial. I can see Lake Michigan right there. Um, so it's really fun. Unfortunately, I'm in Las Vegas. I have no chance of seeing it. I don't even know why I dug out my solar eclipse glasses. But if you have these solar eclipse glasses, you can actually look at the sun with them. So if there's a big sunspot or something, you could see it. So this is basically step one of the quest. And the next step of the quest, let me just go to it here. This is where you put in your solar eclipse images. So this is going to remind you that you must capture images of the solar eclipse during the star party, and these are what the data collection slots look like. So I've already snapped an image from the Spanish feed, and so when I click on Find Image, I can see that first initial image that I took, and when I click on it, it loads it into the quest. Now, there are 41 image slots within this quest. You do not have to use all 41. You can just use one if you'd like, but there's space for if you want to include as many, well, as many as 41. When you get to the next step, this is where you create your infographic poster. And you could see that there's total solar eclipse 2026. There's some information about the eclipse down here, but there's this big black canvas for you to put all of your solar eclipse images. So if you want, you could put them in rows and columns, in chronological order if you'd like. In the past, we've had some solar eclipse posters where people have spiraled their images into totality. Um, it, the creativity is limitless for what you can do in these in creating your poster. And that's basically the quest. Once you get finished making your poster, you'll hit finish and then you'll claim your quest badge and you'll get your gravity points. And that would be it. Now, one other thing I want to mention really quickly is when you take your solar eclipse image, if you get a really good one of totality, if you end up working on the lunar phases quest, I suggest going back to your lunar phase diagram, and there's a way for you to add in an image onto your poster. This, a total solar eclipse and even a Ring of Fire solar eclipse is the only time that you can capture the new moon phase. And so you'll actually be able to add the new moon phase to your lunar phase diagram. So just wanted to add that in before finishing my screen shares.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for walking us through the quest. And for anybody who completes it and or shares their poster, tag Slooh, we'd love to reshare your work with the world and see your creativity. The most amazing part of getting to look up at the night sky together like this, or the daytime sky, as the case may be, is that we all have different interpretations of it and different reactions to it and different emotions and connections. So seeing how you interpret what you're seeing is the most fun part for the whole community to get to gather around and look at it together. Um,
Definitely is.
yeah. So I mentioned in the intro a really fun fact, which is that the fact that we get eclipses is kind of this like crazy cosmic coincidence. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean it's super fascinating. The moon is 390 times closer to us than the sun, and yet it happens to be at the perfect distance to form these magnificent events. And but what's really interesting is it didn't always happen like this. In the Earth's past, the moon was much, much closer to us. And actually, we've been able to calculate that the moon is currently moving away from us about 3.8 centimeters a year, which is about an inch and a half for us that use imperial units still.
So what does that mean for our ability to see eclipses now versus in the future?
Well, what that means is eventually in the future, the moon will be far enough away from us that it won't actually cover the whole sun. And so we won't have total solar eclipses anymore. We'll just have those annular eclipses. And the one day, a few years ago, I did a back of the envelope calculation and found that if the moon's semi-major axis, which is its average distance between the Earth, if that actually increased 3.8 centimeters a year without speeding up or slowing down, then in about 475 million years, the moon and sun will be the exact same size in the sky for the last time. And so I would say that the last total solar eclipse that will happen on Earth is about a half a billion years from now. So we actually have plenty more solar eclipses to see before that happens.
That's good to hear because I know that we all like watching solar eclipses and it would be a pity if they went away. But that number, the 3.8 centimeters, is so small. It's a really small number, especially in the context of astronomy, where we talk in terms of astronomical units and light years and megaparsecs. How do they measure that tiny little amount?
That's a really good question. And basically, they used lasers to do this. When the Apollo astronauts went to the moon, they left behind these special mirrors called the Lunar Ranging Retroreflectors, or LRRR for short. And in fact, Apollo 11 left one, Apollo 14 left one, and Apollo 15.1. And since the same side of the moon always faces the Earth, they were able to place them down perfectly so that when we shoot a laser pulse from Earth to the moon, it will reflect off of that mirror and come back to the Earth. And so, since the speed of light is constant, we can then wait for the light round trip travel time to figure out exactly how far away the moon is. And so this is how we're able to calculate such small amounts like 3.8 centimeters. And if there's any members listening, if you're interested in hearing more about that and about what the Apollo astronauts did on the moon, we have the Apollo program quest that you can go on.
Which also seems like a great way to think about what are ways that we can also prove that we landed on the moon. Being able to bounce lasers off of mirrors that are there is another great piece of evidence for that and an interesting way to use the science of the Apollo program even today.
Absolutely. And there's also there's a lunar reconnaissance orbiter that's orbiting around the moon. They've taken pictures of the stuff that humanity has left behind. So there should be no doubt that we went there.
It's another fun observer quest that's coming soon is proof points that we landed on the moon, debunking
Yeah.
myths around that. So speaking of the moon a little bit more, I mean, today we're talking about the total solar eclipse, but it's kind of like all about the moon because the moon is what's making this happen. It's also, like you said, the new moon. What is happening tonight in the night sky in the nighttime that's related to the new moon and makes it another fun viewing opportunity?
So tonight we have this is the peak of the Perseid meteor shower. What's happening is the Earth is moving through a comet debris tail of the comet Swift-Tuttle. And when this happens, that debris from that comet starts raining down onto the Earth's atmosphere and causes tons of meteorites. Now, it's called the Perseid meteor shower because if you look at where the Perseid constellation is, you should be able to see that a lot of meteors are coming from that direction in the sky. And that's kind of like the direction that Earth is heading in right now because we're kind of slamming into a debris field, our planet is. Or I guess I should do it like that. And what's really great is, as you pointed out, this is also coinciding with the new moon phase. So, astronomers, I think a lot of non-astronomers like to think that, oh, we love the full moon because we could see the like everything on the moon, and it's actually the full moon is so bright that it causes the night sky to glow because the moonlight is hitting the atmosphere and all of that. And so, without having the moon in the sky at night, we get these very dark skies. And once you have dark skies, you can see fainter things easier. So, you'll be able to see not only the big, bright fireball meteors, but you'll also be able to see some of the fainter ones that you might not have seen if the moon was in the sky during that time.
Exactly. Astronomers love the new moon. It's way better to observe with clear skies and also new moon so that we can see the most. So if you're curious about coming back, you can't get enough of astronomy in one day from this star party. We're going to have another star party tonight for the Perseid meteor shower, watching from special meteor cams, and we'll be counting how many we can see. It's always a really fun activity. So I'm very excited also to chat a little bit with you because you and I both studied exoplanets. And exoplanets, one of the ways that they're found is through transit method, where you watch the dip in light as a planet crosses in front of its host star. Can you talk a little bit about what is the relationship between a transit and an eclipse? Are there any special transits of planets in our solar system and our sun that we care about? Um, why are astronomers so obsessed with this dip in the light?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very good analogy, comparing eclipses with the transit method of detecting exoplanets, because that's basically what's going on is these planets are passing in front of their parent stars or their host stars when we make those measurements. And so at the before the transit method was even a thing, astronomers thought that it would be very rare to see a planet passing in front of its host star, but it turns out it's actually quite common. And I believe I could be misspeaking, but I think that most of the exoplanets that have been discovered so far now have been discovered via the transit method. And
Yes.
so, what's wild about that is you got to think of the perfect alignment between that planet's orbital plane and its host star, like lining up with us in the solar system. And so we've discovered so many exoplanets so far that and in special cases like that, if a planet were to be orbiting, if a planet's plane was orbiting 90 degrees from where it is, we wouldn't have that transit method. We'd have a planet orbiting like this. And so by using statistics and what we've seen so far, we're pretty confident to say that at every star in the sky has at least one planet around it. So it's really amazing to be able to say something like that. Um, and so that's the connection. Is what else did you ask about?
No, 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 that's perfect. I mean, I think what I find most interesting about it is that the eclipses, I mean, for a total solar eclipse, the moon is blocking out almost the entirety of our sun. But for transits, when we discover exoplanets, which are planets that are orbiting other stars outside of our solar system, the dip in light is more like a fraction of a percent. So while here we're getting this total block of light, it's the equivalent of if you had a mosquito flying in front of the Empire State Building, but you're looking at it from California for a transit. So it's a really much smaller dip in light, but that can tell us a bunch of scientific information.
Yeah, and the telescopes are sensitive enough to start seeing these sorts of things. And by measuring the shape of how that light dips, they can learn things like how big the planet is, and other things like that. You can measure its period by waiting for it to come back. And there was even a special transit that happened. I forgot exactly what system it was, but there were two dips, and you could see a moon around one of these planets because the moon was also blocking light. So it's really amazing the different science that's done these days in the exoplanet field. And that's just one of the methods of just detecting exoplanets. There are others.
Yes, and all was just the dip in light. If you're really interested in exoplanets, you actually can measure some of this transit dipping of light with on Slooh. There's one of our Gravity Guild members is doing so right now. She's been tracking the dip in light from some exoplanets to be able to show the light curves and show the presence of these planets around their other stars using telescopes from Slooh, which I find so fun. I spent my whole PhD doing that, so it's really cool that you can do it on Slooh. Um,
Yeah, it totally is.
it's
Super cool.
amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. John, for joining us today, for walking us through a little bit about how to get around on Slooh, how to be part of this community, and how to participate in the Moments Quest and the capturing of data. We're so glad to have you here, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me on, Dr. Emma. I was super glad to talk to everybody about all of these topics, and I'll be on the live feeds. Make sure when you're listening, keep snapping images of the eclipse for your quest.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So we have dived deep into how to get into Slooh quests, but let's now talk about some of the specific feeds that we have today. So we have feeds from Iceland, we have feeds from Spain, we're going to have feeds from Greenwich, and we're so lucky to get to have a guest today who is an Icelandic astrophotographer and stargazer who co-runs Iceland at Night, which is one of the leading places for chasing auroras and clear skies in Iceland. And he's our next guest, Gisli. He helps guide some of the research around observing from Iceland. And today he's been forecasting this exact eclipse for years. And if anybody can tell us whether Iceland's totality is going to break through the clouds and rain, it is him. Gisli, welcome from Iceland.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Oh, it
And
looks like maybe the sky is clearing a little bit. It's not pouring rain anymore there.
yeah, well, the rain has cleared up a little bit, but unfortunately, we are still seeing some quite bad clouds over here. But we are trying to make the most of it, and we have a nice eclipse party going on, as you can see behind me.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so glad to have you here. Thank you for taking time to talk with us today. You've been pointing toward this moment for a long time. So, what does it mean to finally have this eclipse happening today in Iceland?
Well, yeah, it's been a long journey since we started this project 2 years ago to inform and just doing outreach project all over Iceland. And the past few weeks and months has been quite exhausting and quite hectic. But finally, the day is here, and we can't do anything else but to celebrate.
Indeed. Can you tell us about like what is happening on the ground in Iceland today? Are people really excited? Are a lot of people outside? What's the energy like?
Yeah, so everybody is probably on the move to the West Fjords of Iceland since the last weather update was a few patches of clear skies in the westernmost part of the West Fjords. So I guess a lot of people will be heading out there. But we decided to stay here in Reykjavik since it's a beautiful opportunity to witness the total solar eclipse from our home. And it's actually quite rare to see it from your home position. So we decided to stay here, not to travel and find any clear patches of sky. So yeah, that's why we're staying here in the rain and trying to make the most of it.
I love it. I'm cheering for the rain to clear for you, and I hope you get to see it from your home place. When was the last time that there was an eclipse over Iceland?
So we had a partial eclipse. You mean a total solar eclipse?
Either one.
That was in 1954 on the southernmost part of Iceland. We had a total solar eclipse going over the Westman Islands. And then I think the last one that swept across Reykjavik was in 1733, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
But the last partial we had was in 2024. Yeah.
Wow. So it has been a while since a full one has swept across Reykjavik. So it'll be exciting to have that there today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So you also are an expert in chasing auroras. How does it compare to try and do that kind of astrophotography and streaming versus eclipses? What do you enjoy about each, and how are they similar and different?
Wow, that's a good question. So photography-wise, I mean, it's completely different. Uh, Hunting down gaps in the clouds for auroras are quite easy, but with total solar eclipses, you have to be in the path of totality to be able to catch any of the beauty or the display of it, the eclipse itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite different, but still in a bit similar though, in a way.
How
But
so?
we have, even though it's quite hard to predict any cloud cover. We do have an excellent meteorologist office that are doing excellent job on predicting it, but being on an island in the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean, it can be quite tricky sometimes. And now we are hoping to see just some few openings or brief openings in the low clouds to be able to see at least a partial, and hopefully we can see some of the totality.
I hope so. So, for viewers who have never been to Iceland in the middle of the North Atlantic, what makes Iceland such a special place to watch the sky and a special place in general?
Well, in general, I mean, Iceland is the best place in the world to see the Northern Lights, for example, since we are always located right underneath the aurora overt. So that means basically every clear night we can see some evidence of the auroras. And just the landscape is just, in my opinion, I've been traveling with a group of tourists all over Iceland for the past 10 years at least. And now when you get to see your own country through the eyes of tourists visiting, you get another perspective of the nature and the beauty that it's hidden behind every valley and mountain. So it is quite scenic, you can say. But yeah, the Northern Lights are the main attraction, at least during the wintertime.
Yep.
And then in the summertime, we have 24 hours of daylight almost. So then we can only stargazing we can do at the summertime is our beautiful sun.
There you go. What's a beautiful star to look at.
Absolutely.
So for anybody who's feeling inspired from watching the eclipse today or hearing about the aurora and wants to go experience either of those in a different place or in person and not just through a community stream like this, where should they start? What is a good place to go learn about seeing aurora or eclipses in person?
Well, me and my dear friend Saivar, we have this website called icelandatnight.is. So we are providing real-time space weather data along with cloud cover forecast all over Iceland, along with satellite images, so you can track clear skies or patches of clear skies, that is, all over Iceland. And lots of work have been put into that website, along with lots of information on where to go, where to look, how to use the website, and what is it that we are reading from those information or this space weather information. What is the BC level and so forth.
That's amazing. It's a good resource for people to turn to who are curious to learn more and excited, especially to go to Iceland about this.
Yeah, so our plan is actually to have our website, icelandatnight.is, the only stop for any tourists or visitors to see both the space weather data and also the cloud cover forecast.
That's amazing. And it's incredible that we have the tools to be able to do some of that forecasting now.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what it's like to be in the path of totality? What is your favorite eclipse that you've ever experienced, and how does partial compare to total?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So my first eclipse was in 2016. Me and Saivar, we went to Indonesia. We went out on a boat to a very remote island, and we were able to witness my first total solar eclipse in Indonesia, which was amazing. I think that one is definitely my favorite one because it was my first one, my first experience of the total solar eclipse, and it was the most memorable thing. It's something that I will remember for the rest of my life. Actually, every eclipse, I guess, are one of those moments. Yeah, because the wow factor is just so overwhelming when you see it for the first time, when you see the shadow of the moon whooshing overhead for the first time, and you get the goosebumps, and you're just thinking to yourself, wow, how is this possible? But yeah, I was actually at during a live broadcast today with the national broadcasting system here in Iceland. I was telling people that living east of the path of totality, they need to come to into the eclipse path of totality. So there is no such thing as 99% eclipse. That would be a 99% partial eclipse. So to be able to enjoy it, you have to be in the path of totality. Otherwise, the experience is only 1% of the whole thing. So it's basically black and white. It's comparing. Yeah, it's just you can't compare those two things, partial eclipse and a total solar eclipse, even though both are beautiful and everybody can definitely enjoy them. So
Absolutely. I think there is nothing that compares to really seeing a total solar eclipse. The first one that I ever saw, I think the word that you used to describe was just wow. And I could not agree
yeah,
more. It's just a wow. Your brain just takes in this moment and you're like, oh my gosh, how is this happening? This is so incredible.
absolutely.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit? I see all these people around you, behind you.
Yeah,
Are people in Iceland really excited about this moment? I mean,
yeah,
what is the atmosphere like?
definitely. Well, we are seeing some heavy traffics going out to the Reykjanes Peninsula, the Snæfellsnes Peninsula, and the West Fjords, because the path of totality is only on the westernmost part of the country.
Yep.
So only a small portion of the country actually are capable of seeing the totality. So yeah, people are very excited, and I know there are a lot of eclipse parties taking place. While we have Björk doing like a musical festival in my hometown, Hafnarfjörður, and then of course we have in the Snæfellsnes Peninsula the Eclipse Festival. So we have thousands of attenders going to those festivals, among other private star parties like we are seeing here with me tonight.
Wonderful. Oh, that's so exciting. We're so glad to have you on the ground there. How is the weather looking just while we've been talking? Has it lightened up a
Well,
little bit?
yeah, it's actually just time to rain again.
Oh
So
no.
I'm getting a little bit wet, but it's fine. It's not that
Well, I
much
think
though. I've seen it worse.
yes, yes. I'm crossing my fingers that it clears up. And excited for you and excited for Iceland and everybody there who's ready to experience this. Where is the next eclipse that you want to go see for this summer?
Uh, well, I'm definitely planning on going to Spain next year, southern part of Spain. Uh, I won't be able to go to Northern Africa or Luxor, but Northern Spain is definitely on my list, and I'm already starting to plan that one out.
Wonderful. Well, I hope you get a chance to breathe and rest after today. You've been
Yeah.
busy and prepping for this moment.
I'm gonna interrupt you guys super quickly to take a quick look at the feed because this is our Greenwich feed. If you look over to the right, you'll see we have contact one.
That
Yeah,
C1.
that's beautiful.
Wonderful. Very
That's
exciting.
amazing.
It's officially
Very exciting.
starting. Awesome. Well, Gisli, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been so
My
wonderful. We're so
pleasure.
excited to see the eclipse, hopefully through Iceland, and
Yeah,
thinking of you there and hoping the rain and clouds part just in time for the sun
yeah,
covered up.
yeah. Fingers crossed.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for joining us, and we'll be thinking of you on the ground there.
Thank you so much. Nice to hear from you guys.
Good to have you.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye. Oh, look at that. We have C1. Yes, behold, it's beginning. That is the first contact. This is the feed from Greenwich. Greenwich will not have full totality, but they will be where we can see both C1 and then also C4 at the end of the eclipse. And it's so fun to see. Looks sort of like the moon is taking a bite out of the sun as it begins to make that march across. Now, it looks like it's moving really slowly, but the moon is actually moving at about 15, the shadow at least, is moving at about 1,500 miles per hour or about 2,400 kilometers per hour, just to give senses of scale here. As the moon's shadow is sweeping across the earth, it's moving actually quite quickly. Let's see. We are ready now for our next guest. Gretchen, do we have the next guest on?
Andrew hasn't joined just yet. But you know what? In the meantime, we can answer a couple of questions from people. We did have Kat is really wanting to know about will we be able to see she asked any solar coronas. So maybe talk a little bit about what we're going to see at totality with the corona.
Yeah, so when we have totality, it's going to cover the whole, I almost think of it as like the front of the sun. And what we might be able to see are things that are protruding from the side of the sun. So that are from the sides of it. So this is things like solar flares and prominences that are in that coronal layer. And there what we can see in that, if you remember the image that Dr. John showed from the new moon, you can see that around during totality. At the start of totality, we see what are called Bailey's beads, which is like just a little bit of light because of the craters of the moon. It's a really interesting phenomenon that is actually different based on every eclipse because of the relative angles between the sun and the moon. And also the final snap of that Bailey's beads part is called the diamond ring, where it almost looks like you're looking at a diamond ring, as the name would suggest. Um, Let's see if we have some other questions in the chat. Oh, and there's Andrew. Wonderful. Great. We have our next guest here, and then we'll answer some more questions later. So our next guest, I'm very excited about. And he has spent 30 years studying the one thing that a lot of people spend their lives trying to avoid, which is darkness. He's a scholar and a teacher and a consciousness and sleep researcher, author of 9 books. And his argument is that darkness isn't the absence of something, it's a teacher in its own right. And with the moon about to dim the sun, as we can see on this feed, where it's already starting to happen across 3 different continents, there's no one better to ask about what the dark has to show us. Andrew, welcome to the Slooh Total Solar Eclipse Star Party.
Yeah, so nice to be with you all. What an exciting day. This is awesome.
Absolutely. It's so fun. It was really cool to see the crowds gathered in Iceland watching and have the crowds gathered here on Slooh being able to watch this event together. It's so special. I love it. I mean, personally, as an astrophysicist, it's always so fun when the world gets excited about space, but it's particularly fun when it's a total solar eclipse. So we're so glad to have you here today. I would love to start by talking about how we live in a world that is actually almost rarely dark anymore, with the lights that we have all around us, with even, we were talking earlier about how the full moon causes problems for astronomers because it makes the night sky that much brighter. What have we lost by this banishing of the darkness, and what does an eclipse hand back to us?
Yeah, well, we've lost a lot, right? Physical and metaphysical light pollution are really damaging, and I would actually resonate with what a number of wisdom traditions talk about is the Kali Yuga, the Dark Age. And ironically, I think what makes the Dark Age so dark is its insidious nature. And that insidious nature is really born of light pollution and its manifestation in distraction. And so, what happens with so much light, I often talk about how at the deepest light levels, light doesn't reveal, light conceals, is it literally, etymologically, distraction means to pull apart, draw apart. So it pulls us apart from who we are. And so we suffer, I would argue, with a kind of darkness deficit disorder. And for me, this is a disorder of interiority, depth, authenticity, truth, and connectivity. I mean, so many things that are lost in this information age and this distracted age. And so by stepping into the dark on nature's terms, like it's happening right now, or through practices like dark retreat, which I'm currently studying and writing about, this is a way to actually balance this excessive infatuation because we live in a light-centric, wake-centric, sight-centric culture, right? And these centricities are all part of the obfuscations, the eclipse that actually takes place. So something like that, I think that's maybe the heart of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So astronomy is uniquely impacted by the increase in light in the world. I mean,
Oh
we
yeah.
used to have, for example, the Paris Observatory in downtown Paris, but the invention of the light bulb banished observatories out into the places in the world where we try and find that darkness and that quiet. And that challenge has been even more exacerbated. In addition to the light bulb, we now have satellites that are producing various kinds of light that make it harder for us to look at the night sky, whether ourselves with our own eyes in cities where there's just light all the time, or in for telescopes. So, what What would you say about how society has moved away from that connection to darkness, and how has that impacted us, especially in the last, call it, 100 years, with the invention of the light bulb and the proliferation of light in various ways?
Yeah, a number of things. But right, I mean, first of all, just to reinstate the centrality of what you just mentioned, that this is one reason, of course, why the Webb telescope is a million miles from Earth in the deepest possible, darkest outer space, where there's as close to zero light pollution as one can get, right? And then through that, they're able to peer back to the origins of the universe because they're no longer being distracted in this in a kind of physical sense. And so what we've lost, I mean, in a slightly more, I think, interesting, um, maybe subtle, esoteric way is, and this is, I think, totally connected to what I titled my latest book on, Total Eclipse of the Mind, is that here's one way to look at it. If we were to step outside right now, I mean, it's going to change in a few minutes depending on where you are, which is what's so cool. But if you were to step outside right now and look up, you would probably be like, if you're in Colorado where I am, step outside, you see this magnificent blue sky. What you wouldn't see are the thousands, millions of stars that are out there. And so what the sun represents, this is the obfuscating nature of the sun, and this is what an eclipse can bring about. The sun represents this kind of dominance of the wake-centric conscious mind, see? So we're too infatuated with the superficial dimension of our being, what Frederick Myers called the supraliminal, or I think you could extrapolate that, the supraluminal dimension of the conscious mind. But this is just Freud talked about it, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Below that is the massive, mixing metaphors, is the massive bulk of the berg, or these massive lights of the unconscious mind. And so what happens when we have an eclipse like this, or when darkness comes around, is that wake-centric metacognitive conscious mind, that sets. And when that mind sets, all the stars that represent the vast wisdom of the unconscious mind are allowed to shine. And so therefore, this is why I like the nocturnal meditations, practicing when you're sleeping and dreaming. Again, the dark retreat practice is specifically designed to cultivate this increased sensitivity, this interoceptive capacity. Because again, one way, just to reinstate what I mentioned a few minutes ago, because of so much light pollution, I think this is a large factor of what we know as the meta crisis today. I would say that the meta crisis is a crisis of touch. We've lost touch with ourselves. We've lost touch with each other, with the planet, and I would argue with reality itself. And a large part of this loss of touch, contact, is in fact when we're pulled out, pulled away, distracted by external light, our most superficial dominant of all sense faculties, which is our sight. And so, yeah, when the sense of sight is curtailed, the dominance of the waking consciousness is kind of put under house arrest in a certain way, then the massive resources, these untapped resources of the unconscious mind become more available to you. So something like that.
I love that. So as we think about that, humans have watched the sky go dark for millennia and have read a lot of meaning into it. We'll learn more about that from another guest later on. But as we talk about the meaning that people have found in the darkness, senses of awe, but also thinking of it as a dread or an omen, what do you think that impulse to try and understand darkness as it relates to both the scientific perspective, but also humans try and find meaning out of these moments? What is that impulse
Yeah.
about?
Yeah, this is good. So this is where you hinted at this. This is important. We have a kind of bipolar relationship to darkness. Um, because on one level, it represents the death space, right? The unknown, fear of the unknown, represents this kind of tomb. But it also represents Genesis, originality. I mean, in so many of the world's creation myths, Book of Genesis and the like, darkness preceded light. Darkness is more fundamental. And this is actually interesting scientific interjection that you can make light. You cannot make darkness. Darkness is primordial, it's elemental. And so what I've discovered here that I find very interesting is that we have this kind of love-hate relationship to it. Because on one level, it's an invitation to come home. It's a beckoning to return to origins, to source, to creativity, to Genesis, which is really what archetypal darkness represents in that level. And so what's important, I think, is to centrifuge out what I refer to as lower phase and higher phase darkness. So lower phase darkness, this is the pejorative that you see, darkness associated with ignorance and sin and death, and you see it replete in so many traditions, somewhat unfortunately. And so centrifuging that out from this kind of higher phase darkness that does in fact represent Genesis, originality, creativity, depth, authenticity. And so what I'm seeing today is this wonderful balancing principle. This actually comes from the Greeks. Heraclitus talked about this wonderful principle of enantiodromia. I love this term, which is a kind of a balancing narrative that you can see throughout history. That when things get out of balance, you see it in countercultural movements, eventually you see it in revolutions, you see it literally throughout history. You also see this iterated in the Eastern tradition through the principles of yin and yang, that when the pendulum swings too far in one direction, there tends to be a homeostatic mechanism that takes place, a kind of a calling for equilibrium. And so this is, again, to recapitulate what I was mentioning earlier. I think because we're so infatuated, addicted, we're addicted, we're light junkies, we're sight junkies, we're addicted to light, that this level of addiction to distraction is really, again, I think, the heart of the meta crisis. And so this kind of balancing counter movement, this enantiodromic principle, bringing back, reinstating this primordial element of darkness, which although this is also really interesting. In the world wisdom traditions, light is considered by many traditions masculine. Darkness is considered feminine. And so you could extrapolate metaphysical light pollution here in terms of patriarchy. That part of what's happening here at metaphysical light pollution levels is too much runaway masculine light. And so working with darkness is a rematriation process. It's a way to balance, again, the balancing, swinging things back to establish, again, kind of the middle way balancing between. Because at the end, it's not about light, it's not about darkness. It's about equilibrium, it's about balance, it's about homeostasis. And right now, the world is not in that. We're out of balance, we're out of whack. Just look at what's happening. And I think, therefore, darkness is, there's a reason some of these ancient methods are coming back into light, so to speak, in this day and age, because I think these fundamental balancing homeostatic mechanisms are actually in play.
I love that thinking of too, like how moments like this where we have no choice but to be under the darkness as the moon crosses the sun, it forces us to reconnect to the past and to reconnect to experiences that humans have had under darkness induced by eclipses for millennia. And it's something that light bulbs can't take away this moment because, as you said, it's creating darkness, not creating light.
Totally.
And yeah, I'm
let me say
fascinated by
this.
that.
As a active member of the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, right? This is represented, by the way, in what happens when we fall into mandatory, deep, dark, dreamless sleep, right? If you don't enter that dimension of sleep, you will die. I mean, we need to have that healing restorative process take place. So I think on a nightly basis, this kind of phenomena that I'm talking about is recapitulated at these physiological levels. So that's just another thrown into the
Humans
mix.
need darkness.
As much as we need light, for sure.
Exactly. Absolutely. So as we talk about that, we've said over and over, we're a culture that's flooding the world with light and trying to stay busy and distracted. And what have we lost by being afraid of the dark? And how does we're going to have a couple moments of totality during these eclipse feeds. How does that briefly hand it back to us? And what can we take away from those moments?
Well, I think, it can remind us. I think what happens with instances like this is just extraordinary awe. I mean, these are awe-inspiring moments. And they're a way to connect using, in this case, exogenous, external, astrological, or astronomical, I should say, principles to underlying internal narratives. Because a lot of wisdom traditions have this narrative as within, so without, as above, so below. And so when we see something like this happening in the universe out there, I think there's an underlying deep resonance intuition of what it represents at these mythological, cosmological levels, right? This is in addition to being a marvelous symbol, William Blake talked about this a lot, this notion of double vision, to see things as they are Well, I should say, as they seem to be. In this case, there's a moon about to run across the line of the sun, looking at that way, but then also with a double vision, seeing also what that represents at a deeper archetypal mythological level. And to me, that's the majesty of these types of things, this type of non-dual resonance that takes place when we have these amazing celestial events that just stop our minds, right? And they open our hearts, and we're just awestruck with
Yeah.
the majesty. And I think right in that moment, honestly, in that moment of awe, that's perhaps the take-home point, just the complete cessation, negation of the runaway thinking mind, and just having this take your breath away and just finding yourself fully, completely present with what's happening.
One of my favorite findings of neuroscience is the fact that when you're experiencing awe, your brain treats time as moving more slowly. So it's why we think of time passing more slowly during a moment like an eclipse, or when you look at the Grand Canyon or something that induces awe.
100%. I mean, the reason it slows down is because it's a construct. It's made up, right? Space-time causality. These are all constructs, and so there's a partial deconstruction thing that's taking place. Time slows down. The world appears in a magical, wonderful new way. And yeah, I think the result of that is exactly what we talked about, just the sense of splendor and magnificence and awe. Yeah.
Also want to call everybody's attention to the screen right now where we're seeing the speed from Burgos, Spain, where they've had C1 and they're now showing the path of the sun being covered up by the moon. We've got the full, beautiful feed of the full disk there. So it's just amazing to see it happen first in one place, now another place. You can track it back to that map that John showed earlier of as this path is slowly starting to cross, or actually very quickly racing across our planet. And that's switching into H alpha there, so we can see more of the surface of the sun and what's happening. So as we move toward this eclipse in this moment of totality, knock on wood, we'll get to see the Iceland one and then Spain later. If someone wanted to treat this eclipse as like a tiny 2-minute retreat into darkness, what is one simple thing that they could do during that period of time?
Yeah. Well, just be fully present for it. I mean, open to it. Easier said than done because we're always distracting, pulling away from present moment experiences. Again, this is the most insidious moment-to-moment manifestation of distraction, of the wandering mind. And so I think when people experience moments of awe, your mind isn't wandering. Your mind is fully enveloped in what's taking place. And so I would say, in addition to just simply stopping, just opening to the experience. And if one is very, very sensitive when that takes place, you may actually feel this dissolution of the boundary between inner and outer and who exactly is seeing what. So stop and open. Stop and open.
I love that. Stop and open. That's a good reminder for all of us as we stop and open to thinking about what we're experiencing and experiencing it together. So thank you so much for joining us today. It's been
You're
so
welcome.
lovely to have you here and sharing your experience researching all of these connections that humanity has to darkness. I really appreciate you taking time today.
Wonderful. Thanks for having me. It's a really terrific event. So
Awesome.
yes, enjoy the awe, enjoy the splendor. Thank you so much.
We will, for sure.
Okay.
Oh, there's the full feed again from Spain with this glorious view of the partial. And you can see some sunspots and some prominences. I love getting to see the whole variety there. So let's now see, Gretchen, do we have any hint of possibility for Iceland? We're moving closer and closer to when their totality is supposed to take place in about 9 minutes.
Yes, nothing as of yet. It looks like still rain and overcast. I will keep checking in with Gisli to see, but it looks like we will likely miss that. We do have a little bit more time. I believe it's 10:48 Pacific, so we have 9 minutes
Yes,
for
it could come
potential.
to fruition.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, looking through the chat, it's so fun to see everybody here from all sorts of different places. I love seeing I saw a question about will there be a total solar eclipse in New Jersey? Not for this. You might be able to get partial, but definitely don't look without glasses. But excited to have you here watching from there. I see that Milton's doing a watch party in Bolivia right now. How exciting. So glad that you're there at the St. George School students. Um, Spain feed is fully back up. Cloudy here in Scotland. So glad that you're watching live with us and from North Carolina. Where else do we have people watching from? I'd love if you put it in the chat. It's so fun to see all the variety of places that people are coming from to be able to experience this. We have Michigan. Um, More Michigan, wonderful. Lots here in the Midwest. It's very cloudy here, so even the 1% that we're going to get in Chicago won't be visible. Connecticut, hi Todd. Welcome, Team Slooh. Canada, Nebraska. Oh, this is so fun. But from Scotland and England, amazing. Brooklyn, Columbus, are you COSI? Welcome. Nevada, Columbus, amazing. This is so fun to see. I love watching these kinds of events together because we get to experience what it's like to look up at the night sky and experience awe as one, which is just so fun. More Michigan, Idaho, Virginia, Houston. The first solar eclipse that I ever saw, total solar eclipse, was in Idaho. And it was the most amazing thing because the whole town was outside. And I think it's so rare to encounter when like a whole community is outside focused on one thing in the night in the sky together or in just like the world together. Connecticut, 11% there. That'll be fun. You get to see a little tiny partial. Scottsdale, Arizona, amazing, Steve. Welcome. Portland, how fun. I'm loving getting to see this variety of people from all over the world watching. We have a beautiful view coming from Greenwich. You can really see the moon starting to eat into the sun there. It's just spectacular. For super, super high resolution, I don't know if we're going to be able to see it on this feed, but for super, super high resolution, you can actually see some of the cratering on the moon as during eclipses, which is how you get the effect of Bailey's beads at the very moment right before totality. It's really an interesting amazing thing that happens. Wonderful, Missouri. Oh, it's so great to have everybody here. Wow. Thank you all for joining us. And again, to everybody watching on YouTube who is here joining us right before hopeful totality in Iceland, and if not for Spain, I am so glad to have you here. Welcome to Slooh. My name is Emma. I'm the president of Slooh. And if you are on YouTube and want to come over and join us on Slooh, go to slooh.com and there's a special offer there for observers for the total solar eclipse to come hop in and join us and complete our special challenge to capture the images for our quest and be able to learn about how solar eclipses happen and then be able to share your observations with the community and snap your own images of the solar eclipse. Norfolk, Virginia, wonderful. Let's see, any word on the Iceland feed, Gretchen?
Nothing yet, but we do have a question about what that big line is in the center of the sun.
Oh, yes, this is fun. This is activity on the surface of the sun. So the sun's surface has magnetic fields and magnetic field lines. And when material, plasma, is ejected from the surface of the sun, it's ejected often along the magnetic field lines. And when they break, it goes away from the surface of the sun. But when they're connected, it makes an arch. And that's it's called a prominence, I believe, is what we're seeing there. You can also see some sun spots, which are the little darker regions on the two little dots almost in the bottom left quadrant. And now we're switched to a white light feed. So this is actually a really interesting shift because white light, you don't see all of the prominences, you just see the sunspots. Whereas for H alpha, we're seeing a little bit further down into the surface of the sun or into the layers of the sun. It doesn't really have a surface. And you can see a little bit more about what's happening with hydrogen alpha. It's a very narrow filter that gets a little bit more detail. Awesome. Eglin Air Force Base. Love seeing all these people come through in the comments for where you are. If it doesn't look like we're going to get Iceland totality, which I'm not sure that it does, I think perhaps then we'll move into our next guest, which I'm really, really excited about. Um, our next guest is Dr. Winifred Frick, and she is the person who is here to talk to us about how animals respond to the night sky and to darkness and eclipses. So we all reach for our eclipse glasses when the darkness comes out during, or for when the eclipses happen, so we can see what's going on. But the rest of the natural world doesn't have eclipse glasses to put on. They don't necessarily even know what's going on in terms of an eclipse. But if you've ever experienced the path of total solar eclipses, you know that birds start to go to roost and crickets start up and bats stir, and the animal world is kind of fooled into thinking that night has fallen. So this false dusk is a part of expertise of our next guest. Dr. Winifred Frick is a chief scientist at Bat Conservation International and a researcher at UC Santa Cruz, and she has spent her career decoding how bats read the sky. Dr. Frick, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. This is great fun. I'm in California, so we don't get any glimpse of the eclipse this time around. So it's really fun to be joining all of you for this experience.
Absolutely. Well, we're so glad to have you here. And I know we have a special video of a little bit. Gretchen, if you want to pull that up to start.
Yeah, while that's playing, I'll just give people a little orientation. So in the total eclipse that passed over North America in 2022, Bracken Cave, which Bat Conservation International owns, it's the world's largest bat cave anywhere in the world. There's upwards of 20 million Mexican free-tailed bats that live in this cave. And the cave was in the path of totality. So a bunch of us bat nerds went and traveled and sat out in front of the cave. But like Iceland is experiencing right now, we sat and it was overcast and we didn't get to experience the amazingness of the totality. Although it did, it got a little dusky and dark, and one bat flew out of the cave during the eclipse.
Yeah, it is unfortunate how the nighttime, like the special moment of nighttime, can just be blocked by clouds. It's the perpetual problem of astronomy, is that we can't control the weather.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, we're so glad to have you here today and excited to have you talking about, especially your work with Bat Conservation International. I had a delightful time reading about all of your research before this, and I'm so excited to have you here. So right now, as the light is dropping toward maximum, or the light drop is moving toward its maximum, the animals along the eclipse path are being tricked into thinking that it's dusk. What's happening in a bat's world during that time?
Yes. Well, so most bats, when it is actual dusk, that is their alarm clock. It's time to wake up and head out into the night sky to hunt for insects. A lot of bats that live in caves will do a behavior called light sampling, where some bats will fly out towards the entrance of the cave and check on the status of the light to sort of see when is the right time to emerge. They also have a circadian rhythm. So for bats that are living deep in a cave, like at Bracken Cave, they probably aren't too aware, because it's depending on the time of day when it's happening, they're in a dark place already. They may not be super aware that it's getting unusually dark for in the middle of the day. But not all bats roost in caves. Many bats roost in trees. And for those bats that are hanging up in trees, it probably it's like the alarm is going off at an odd hour for them. And so they're probably going to wake up. We actually don't know too much about how bats respond. It's also important to remember that when we talk about bats, we're talking about a very diverse group of animals. There's now 1,511 species that have been described, and we're describing new species every year. So there's lots of different bats doing lots of different things in different parts of the world. But my guess is that for the bats who are roosting out in trees in places where they're in the path of totality, they probably go, wait, is it time to get up and start looking for insects? What is happening right now?
It's kind of like being awoken in the middle of the night when you're not expecting your alarm to go off.
Yes.
I have to imagine.
Yes.
So bats also navigate by sound, true? So it's like, how do they, excuse me, lots of talking today. They navigate by sound as much as they do by light. So does an eclipse confuse them at all? In a way, like it confuses day active animals, or how do they experience that? And is it different?
Right. And so bats are famous for being able to echolocate. So they're using sound to navigate their environment. And this is because almost all bats are nocturnal, so they're flying around in the dark. And there's a myth that bats are blind, but bats aren't blind. They actually have eyesight that's pretty equivalent to humans, but we wouldn't do a very good job finding small insects flying around in the night sky. And so they're sending out high frequency sounds, and then they have incredibly sensitive ears to be listening for the return echoes to be able to hone in on. Insects out of the night sky. So, but because they can see and they do use vision for certain kinds of cues, including sort of this light sampling behavior. It probably is confusing for them if they're losing. If they're out in a tree and they can experience that the light is disappearing in the middle of the day.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
gonna be a little bit disconcerting. So bats often get a bad reputation. I mean, when people hear about bats, there's often a sense of squeamishness or fear, but they're also essential in so much of nature. So can you talk about why we should care about bats, and in particular, why Bat Conservation International exists today and what we or need to be doing to protect bats and their habitats?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, Bat Conservation International exists to safeguard bats for the benefit of nature and people. And I always like to lead off that, bats are fascinating and incredible and deserve our protection in their own right. They make up 20% of all mammals on the planet, and they are incredibly diverse and they inspire us. Sometimes they scare us, but we wouldn't have Batman without bats. But they also provide really valuable ecosystem services, including many bats are voracious consumers of agricultural insect pests. So bats are really great friends to farmers around the world, whether you're growing cotton or rice or corn or tree nuts. There's been lots of evidence of the value that bats provide by eating crop pests, and that's helping avoid putting more pesticides on our farms and helping increase crop yields. And then bats in tropical areas also are important pollinators for lots of different plants. So bats are the pollinators of agave. So if you like your margarita, you need to toast a bat. And other commercially important plants like durian, which is a favorite fruit in Southeast Asia. And then they're also important for dispersing seeds in tropical rainforests. So bats are messy eaters. They love fig fruits, which are a really important pioneer species in tropical rainforests. And they fly through the forest and carry those figs around, drop the seeds, and then that helps regenerate forests. Especially they're able to, fly over somewhat degraded areas too, so they can help restore different types of forests.
Wow, bats get a bad reputation, but they do so much for the world and so much for natural ecosystems. And it's so interesting to learn about the diversity of bats as well. I think that's something that not a lot of people are aware of, is how many different types there are out there. Um, so as you said, during the 2024 eclipse, people were logging animal behavior in real time and trying especially to watch the bat behavior while there was clouds, in particular by the Bracken Cave. What did we learn about how creatures respond during that eclipse and other eclipses?
Yeah, well, a bunch of us were there at Bracken hoping to see what are the bats going to do, and one bat flew out. And then other folks have put out bat detectors, which are an acoustic recording device that is capable with an ultrasonic microphone, which is capable of recording the echolocation calls that bats make, and tried to compare, like, was activity of bats different? And to be honest, the results are kind of mixed. So it doesn't seem like there's a big response out there. But I think what is fun is thinking about these opportunities to think about not only our reaction to these incredible astronomical events, but how we share this planet with a lot of other animals and how they're responding, and that sense of shared space and our obligation to protecting wildlife on planet Earth.
Absolutely. We do have an obligation because we are part of this amazing planet. And as we talked about earlier, there are so many planets out there, and this is the only one that we know of that has life on it. So we better do everything we can to protect it. Um, I'm curious too. So beyond bats, what are some other animal reactions to eclipses that have surprised scientists or are particularly fun or interesting to learn about?
Oh, good question. But I am such a bat nerd that I mostly know about bats. I
That's
have
fair.
been accused of monotaxophilia, of only really paying attention to what bats do.
That is totally fair. I think it's amazing just to understand that the whole natural world responds to eclipses in different ways and the different creatures start to wake up. Um, I'm curious too. So when totality is only lasting for of order 2 minutes, is that long enough for bats to really rouse and actually take wing, or would it just be like a wake up to your alarm, blurry, and then like roll over and go back to sleep when the alarm stops going off at the end of those 2 minutes?
Yeah, it sort of depends what's happening for the individual bat. So very cool thing about bats is that even though they're mammals like we are, they are actually heterothermic, meaning that they have the ability to turn their metabolisms on and off. And bats that are in temperate areas do this as an energy saving mechanism. So it's a true hibernation, right? So in the winter when there's not a lot of things to eat, some bats will migrate to areas where maybe there's more insects, but other bats will escape a temperate winter by going underground and turning off their metabolisms to save energy. I like to say they literally chill out because they go cold. So if a bat, and we call that being in torpor.
Mhm.
And if you're in torpor, it can take quite a while to you have to shiver up and you've got to use your fat stores to be able to do that and shiver awake. And so that takes a little bit of time. So if a bat was in a torpid state, A, they probably wouldn't notice that there was an eclipse happening, but B, it would take longer to wake up. And actually, this is one of the threats to bats is that if we don't protect those places where bats are hibernating, if people go into those sites, they may not realize that they're disturbing the bats, but the bats because it takes them a while to shiver to wake up, but they may wake up and get disturbed. And those times where they're shivering to wake up really impacts them because it burns up their fat reserves. And then they only have so much fat to last the winter. And they're small animals, so they don't pack on the pounds, they pack on the grams. But bats that are just asleep or in a more active phase, yeah, they can wake up pretty quickly. I mean that's a good strategy. You want to be able to wake up and fly quickly if you're a predator's nearby or some other kind of disturbance happening. So they
Yeah,
probably would be able to notice and get moving.
that makes sense. So can you tell me a little bit more about what would disturb a bat? If people walking into a cave is one thing, what are other things that would disturb them?
Yeah, so for our cave roosting bats, going inside the caves where bats are is can be very disruptive. If bats are active and awake, they may flush out and fly out, and that can be detrimental. They may have pups there, and they may not want to abandon their pups. If they're cold, if they're in hibernation, you might not be aware that you're disturbing them, but that still could cause them to arouse from torpor. And bats that are in other kinds of structures, I mean, they're pretty good they can get up into bridge crevices under our bridges, and it's a pretty nice safe place for them to be. You can walk under a bridge, they'll be tucked up into their little crevices and okay. Um, you know, some bats are roosting in trees, and in certain parts of the world, if you are you know uh, trying to actively, like some people will like actively try to persecute or disturb them, and um, that's a problem. So
Yeah. So what can we do to help protect bat habitats? What are some actions that people on this call could take today?
Yeah, it really depends on where you are. One of the things that we are doing at Bat Conservation International is starting a gardening for bats program, which is a way, and we're going to be launching soon. So you can check out our website at batcon.org, where you can look up what kind of plants you could plant that help support nocturnal moth species that bats feed on. So that's one way in your own backyard that you can help. You can also leaving old trees, and if you're in a place that has palms, letting your palms be shaggy, those are great places. Bats love to roost in old trees or um, uh, and shaggy palms. And then supporting efforts to protect green space and open space. They love wild places, but they also are pretty good at using urban spaces as long as there's good trees and fresh water. Most bats have to drink on the wing. So,
Mm, wow,
yep.
that's so interesting. So one of the things that I love about Slooh is that there's lots of opportunities for citizen science. Are there opportunities to get involved with citizen science that relates to bats and bat conservation?
Yeah, we're growing those opportunities right now. The best thing I can offer at this point is we've just released this spring our Bat Ambassadors program, which is an
Cool.
online self-paced training program to help you learn how to be a bat ambassador. That is covers a range of different information and then has opportunities for contributing to bat conservation. We will be rolling out some additional opportunities through that program in the coming months to years. So, stay tuned. You can become a member of Bat Conservation International and keep up on all of the things. And we're working on different opportunities to get people involved in our work and helping bats around the world.
That's amazing. I'm so excited to learn more about that and have everybody here learn more about it. One last question I want to ask you. When I was researching before this star party and reading about how you talk about science, you talk about how you think that the recipe for curious or for like wonderful science involves curiosity and involves deep research and it also involves fun. Can you talk a little bit about that and like how do we connect that feeling of curiosity and fun and science in a way that brings people into this desire to learn more about the world?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of people and children display this like nature is a place that is inspiring. It's a place that helps us remember who we are and how we're connected to other things on the planet. And that when I was a kid, and was learning about biology in high school, I had no idea that biology was really a creative discipline. It was sort of characterized as this idea that you had to memorize how things worked, and it was less about following your curiosity and asking questions. And we think of the sciences as being separate from sort of the creative arts, and yet science is one of the most creative disciplines there is. And it should be fun. I mean, there's big challenges. And when you work in conservation, it's easy to get overwhelmed with the scale and scope of the problems that we face. But I think for me, remembering that being connected in nature and that curiosity is about asking questions and finding discoveries. I mean, one of my favorite things that I've done in my career was discovering that a bat that normally eats scorpions and is immune to scorpion venom, which is just so cool. This is the pallid bat. Also loves to drink nectar out of cactus flowers. And because it's not adapted to drinking nectar out of flowers, it's actually a better pollinator because it has to shove its scorpion eating face into a flower and then smushes a bunch of pollen on the stigma, and that makes it a great pollinator. So it's just fun.
I, I love that. I could not agree more. I think science gets its reputation as like being a very like routine, like stodgy thing. And it's actually one of the most amazing expressions of human creativity and how we try and understand the world. And then we see the creativity of nature and what's being discovered and learned from. So Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I know I learned so much about bats and about bat conservation and about how bats connect to the eclipse. So thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Frick.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
It's been so wonderful. And if you look at the feed right now, we can see the just past C1 for our own Canary Solar Telescope in the Canary Islands on Slooh. So if you want to grab yet another image, it's awesome. And then I think it's starting to get a little bit closer to totality. We're counting down to totality in Spain. Our next segment is going to be a recorded video from somebody who couldn't join us live today, but who I am excited to share with all of you. The eclipse that we're seeing is sweeping right across the United Kingdom, and we've seen feeds from the Greenwich Observatory, like this one right here. And it is the home of time itself. It's Mark 0. At the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, where the world's clocks are set, astronomers are tracking this partial as it reaches its maximum partialness over the prime meridian. And we're so excited to have a recorded interview with Dr. Greg Brown, who is their senior public astronomy officer and who leads the team that is helping produce this feed and share the idea of the eclipse with the world.
Of the astronomers at the Royal Observatory, and specifically I'm one of the public astronomy officers. That means that I oversee a good fraction of our public program, that is basically anything that doesn't fit under schools or directly associated with our planetarium. And then on top of that, I'm also our observing lead. So I'm in charge of our modern fleet of telescopes and our observing evenings, and of course live streams from the observatory.
Amazing. Well, we are so grateful to have you here on this recorded interview with us today and grateful for the live stream that you are providing to the Star Party. It's really awesome to be able to be seeing what you were seeing there in Greenwich. I would love to learn a little bit more about your background. I know you've started in research and expanded into being one of the people that brings the sky to the public and to the world. What got you into astronomy and how has your career shifted over time?
Yeah, so I first got into astronomy so far back that I don't actually remember when it was. I was 7 years old when my teacher was asking me to do a little talk in front of class, and I chose the topic of astronomy. I went on a whirlwind tour of our solar system and then headed off to talk about the supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy. I had some very wrong ideas about how all of that worked, but it didn't matter. I was clearly hooked on the subject and had been for some time. I understand that most children go through a dinosaur phase and a fireman phase and that sort of thing. No, for me it was astronomer from the very beginning, and seems to have basically stayed that way all the way through my formal education, all the way into higher learning at a master's in physics with astrophysics at the University of Leicester, and then a PhD at the University of Warwick, because clearly that wasn't enough physics at the end of all of that. So yeah, I got through all of that, all the time intending to be a research astronomer, to learn something new about the universe, to understand more about it. And as brilliant as research was, and it was, I slowly learned from about halfway through my master's that I really enjoyed communicating science to various different audiences. There's something brilliant about the sort of the instantaneous feedback that you get from an audience that goes, "Wow, I never knew that before," or was taken aback by something that you've just opened their mind to. That I always found really really enticing and really enjoyable. And so towards the end of my PhD and then heading into a short postdoc, I spent a lot of time doing outreach and public engagement. Eventually decided that was the career I was going to go for, at least at the time, and applied for a job at the Royal Observatory, and now I'm here, 10 years later.
That's amazing. I deeply resonate with that. I found that when I was in my PhD program, doing the research was fun and amazing, and learning new things was incredible. I mean, to get to discover things about the universe, but then at the end of the day, the best part was when you got to share it with other people, and
Exactly.
especially people who aren't in science every day, all day, who could really just the eyes go wide, the mouth drops open as they learn, and it's just the best feeling. So I totally relate, and it's why I'm here at Slooh. So, um, absolutely wonderful to have you here telling us about eclipses and about research or how research about eclipses connects. So I'm curious, what was the first eclipse that you saw, or what is your favorite eclipse that you've seen, perhaps?
I did experience the 1999 solar eclipse, which did pass through the UK. The total solar eclipse did actually pass through the UK, although I seem to remember that the weather was quite poor in Cornwall, which was where the eclipse was visible. So I think they only got a tiny glimpse of it. As it
Yeah.
happened during that time, I was actually on holiday in France with my family, and so we saw something like 60%, something on those lines, partial solar eclipse. And even though I was hooked on astronomy, I must admit that I seem to remember that I had more interest in jumping in the swimming pool than I did in the eclipse itself. But it's stuck in my head that this little
Yeah.
pinhole camera that my dad made, and we got to see the eclipse a few times during its progress.
Yeah.
I watched a couple of other partial solar eclipses. I've seen a handful of sort of 30% or so eclipses at the University of Warwick, and of course here at the Royal Observatory as well. But this one, of course, is particularly impressive for the UK. It's easily the best that we've had since 1999, and it's the best we will get until the total solar eclipse comes back in 2090. So this is it's not quite once in a lifetime, but it's pretty close.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So it's amazing because totality is like an incredible experience when it like really covers, but even partial eclipses have a huge impact on people that are watching. So, and that get to experience it live. So for people who have never been on the ground watching an eclipse, how would you describe what it's actually like, even a partial one, and what does it do to the people who are there gathered to watch?
So, unfortunately, I haven't ever had the chance to see a total solar eclipse, and it is absolutely on the bucket list as something I want to do because the reports that come back from people are just stunning.
Yeah.
But I have seen plenty of partial solar
Right.
eclipses, and there's something about seeing the mechanics of the universe in action. So much of what we see in astronomy is incredibly slow. It's things which change over periods of time which are far longer than the human lifespan. There are relatively few blink and you'll miss it moments. And although a partial solar eclipse isn't strictly speaking blink and you'll miss it, they usually last a couple of hours. Nonetheless, it's a true sort of progression that you can watch over the course of it occurring, and have this chance to wonder at the wonderful coincidence that we have, that we're lucky enough to have a moon large enough and a sun small and distant enough to result in this fantastic coincidence, that they all happen to be about the same size in the sky, and have these wonderful events occur. Yeah, it's we often get extremely enthusiastic people, particularly if this is their first time looking through a solar telescope and seeing the surface of the sun as well, because that's its own experience, being able to see the features on the surface of the sun, but then to have the moon getting in the way of all of it at the same time, and blocking things in real time it is a pretty stunning event.
Yes, it is. It's amazing how much it can pull people out and literally get them to look up. And I completely agree that it's one of the few astronomical phenomenons that is, like you said, quick and also close by. I feel like so many of the conversations that we have in astrophysics are about things that are millions of light years away, and that becomes really hard. It's not tangible to comprehend, but the sun and the moon are arguably the most tangible celestial objects that we can
Yeah.
possibly talk about. Yeah.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
eclipses have also moved people for thousands of years, and they've helped us reshape science. They've been such an incredible both cultural and scientific phenomenon. Why do you think they still stop us in our tracks, and what are your favorite things to tell people about the eclipses?
I think one of the things that makes eclipses really special is that they are a rarity. They are visible only to a relatively small fraction of the world at any one time. Going to see one for most people becomes a pretty big deal, a miniature pilgrimage to go and see it, unless you happen to live in a particular place in Texas that managed to get two in about 6 months. Not envious at all. But no, it's it is a big deal. It's a rare thing. But from the scientific perspective, it's also still a usable phenomenon for studying the atmosphere of the sun, which is so rarely seen, so difficult to observe. Solar eclipses still represent, for certain telescopes at least, the best chance that they have, and best for certain observers, the best chance that they have of observing certain phenomena. There have been interesting sort of citizen science projects associated with the transmission of radio that occurs when the shadow passes over the ionosphere and changes the makeup. And there's all sorts of interesting ways that people can get involved, and it's just the sort of the hands-on practical aspect as well. The idea that you can just put this silly little pair of glasses on your face and suddenly be able to see that one of the wonders of the universe is a wonderful thing.
It's amazing. And I'm so glad that we have ways like the Star Party and the live streams and the feeds from people like you to be able to bring this to the rest of the world that can't be in those areas of even partial eclipse. It's just so spectacular to see. So one last question for you. For anybody who's watching and this is their first time, maybe thinking about astronomy, thinking about the night sky, who's just getting curious, where would you tell them to start?
Interested in getting involved in astronomy in general. So one thing that I tend to suggest is that there are a wealth of enthused individuals who join amateur astronomy groups. That's certainly true across the UK. I've had absolutely no doubt that it's true across the US and in many other countries as well, that these are fantastic places to be able to feed off the enthusiasm that these people have. Many of them have been doing it for decades, that they have in observing the sky and getting interested in astronomy. And of course, the side benefit of that is that you get to make use potentially of the wealth of telescopes that they've brought along with them, which can be fantastic if you're considering getting your own. A sort of a try before you buy sort of situation is definitely appreciated. And we have an amateur astronomy society that is directly part of the museum, Flamsteed Astronomy Society, named after the first astronomer royal of the observatory, and they're a constant source of some of our programs and the activities that we do, and I can't recommend them and others like them enough.
Amazing. I completely agree. Those communities, places like amateur astronomer societies, Slooh, all the
Yes, indeed.
communities and places. I used to love the local planetarium when I was first interested in astronomy. I learned so much there. Observatories. So wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Brown, for being here with us today. Thank you for all the work that you do streaming these events to the world. And we're so grateful to have you on this Star Party with us.
Thank you for inviting us.
Awesome.
Wonderful. That was our Greg Brown from the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, where the sun is about 90% hidden, actually almost as we speak. And now we're going to be building toward for the next 8 minutes until we get to totality in Burgos, Spain. I'm so excited to get to all experience this moment of totality together. For those who are joining us right now, fresh to the star party, this is Slooh, an online telescope platform, and I'm Dr. Emma. I'm the president of Slooh, and so excited to be here experiencing this total solar eclipse with you today from all over the world. Look at that feed from Spain. It's getting so close. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. As just so everybody is aware of what to expect as we get closer to totality, during totality, I will go quiet so that we all can just take in this moment together. And as we're moving toward that moment, if you have questions you want to pop into the chat, if you have where you're from, where you're watching from, what is your favorite eclipse that you've seen? I'd love to hear it. For those who are over on YouTube and want to join us over in the Zoom webinar for Slooh, go check out slooh.com, and there's a special offer for observing the eclipse there, and you can come join us here. And a special shout out to our new partners through COSI and the COSI members who are here today, getting introduced to Slooh. What an epic introduction to get to watch a solar eclipse together. On the platform, watch out for the moments quest to be able to complete during this eclipse. Snap your images, put them on your posters, show your posters, and tag Slooh. We would love to be able to share how you are experiencing this eclipse with the world. I'm so excited to have everybody here today to experience this amazing moment together. We are seeing on this feed right now, you see Spain, and on the platform, you can also toggle over to watch Greenwich. Iceland is unfortunately clouded out, but thankfully we have feeds in other places to be able to capture this moment of totality, which is coming soon. I saw some really fun chatter in the chat during the Greg Brown segment about going to Egypt for next year's eclipse, which is definitely set up to be another amazing eclipse experience. And exciting to have it tracking again, and another opportunity for people to watch it. Also, Dr. Sherilyn put in a note that the string-like dark features are solar filaments, and when they're on the limb, which is the edge of the sun, we see them as prominences, and filaments and prominences are the same phenomenon, but from different perspectives. Thank you for adding that note in there. Wonderful. As a reminder for everybody watching, if you want to complete the Moments quest, the way that you do that is by going to the Quests tab inside Slooh and finding the Observer Learning Progression, and it is the Total Solar Eclipse 2026 quest there, where you'll be able to put all of your snaps from today into that quest and into that eclipse poster and share it with the world. Yes.
I want to add really quickly, if they go to T5, Telescope 5 from the
Yes.
Canary Islands, they can also snap pictures from that telescope as well.
Yes, our very own Canary telescope is getting a partial eclipse today. So you'll be able to go snap images there as well. And that solar telescope runs every day where it's not cloudy. So if you ever want to look at the surface of the sun safely, you can always go to our solar telescopes. And to tease, we have more solar telescopes coming for the future. So excited about that. In addition to our what was teased earlier with the addition of a new lunar telescope coming soon. Hi from New Jersey. Can't see much from there. Yes, I think the numbers I saw for New Jersey were pretty limited, but we're so glad that you're here. It's so fun. Yes, so close. Totality is very close. We're about 4 minutes away, I believe. Look at that.
So Emma, when we get to totality, we're going to pause and be silent. Is there anything we should be watching for, or just be open, like Andrew said, and see what comes?
Well, I would encourage people to look for the phenomenon of Bailey's beads, which I mentioned earlier, for the last little bit right before totality hits. It's a phenomenon that changes based on the relative angles of the moon and the sun for every eclipse, so it's particularly special. And just take it in. It's a really amazing experience to get to watch this phenomenon that is so unique to us on Earth right now, at least, it's only happening because of the exact size of the moon and the distance of the moon from us and the distance of the sun from us and the moon to be able to see this totality happen. It's absolutely amazing that we get to watch this. Other questions, will we see stars or satellites in the background? I don't believe that with this feed you will be able to. It doesn't, when you're in totality and you can see the whole sky, you can sometimes see stars come out. Here, because it's so focused on the sun, I don't think we're going to be able to see anything around it because it's a narrow enough feed. This telescope is from one that is live streaming from Spain, in Burgos, Spain. Awesome. People in Bangor, Maine running outside to view the partial. Awesome, Sarah. So happy to hear that. It's so fun to see this. All right, I'm going to go quiet as we approach totality and observe this with all of you, and I'll be back afterwards with our next guest. And for anyone joining or watching the totality right now, we'll be back with conversation after. Wow. Wow, as we're coming slowly out of peak totality, what a stunning view that was. I love these messages in the chat about our solar system and universe is such a special and awesome place. I could not agree more, Joe. Almost brings a tear to my eye. We are so small compared to the majesty of space. Yes. Isn't that the most wonderful reminder? I got quite emotional. Yes, Fiona, me too. And just gorgeous. Definitely, Steve. Feeling overwhelmed in a good way. I love that, Denise. Or as Gisley said earlier, just wow. Just wow. What an amazing, amazing moment to get to experience that together. I would love to keep putting what you thought, what you felt during it in the chat. It's so fun to see the reactions and to share them with each other. Speechless, yes. And the view of the prominence right at the very beginning was so cool. It's actually an amazing time to study solar physics because you get to see part of it with clarity, with basically like the moon acting as what's called a coronagraph, where it blocks out the centers. You can actually see the corona much easier. We use that in exoplanet science all the time. Oh, this is amazing. Wow. I am also speechless, Joe. It's kind of a problem when I'm hosting this to watch this and then be speechless and have to come back and talk, but it's the most beautiful thing to get to experience this with all of you. Yes, Todd, a calm in the universe, taking a step back and appreciating the view and thinking about our home. Stunned and speechless. I could not agree more. It's incredible that we get to experience this, and it can be such a reminder of how lucky we are to be alive on this planet and in this solar system, and how special it is that we get to be here taking care of this amazing, amazing place. It is so wonderful to experience this with all of you. I'm so glad for everybody that is here, everybody that is joining us through Zoom, through YouTube, on Slooh. It is so special to have everyone together watching this. Just wow. As we come out of totality, we're going to get to have a conversation with our next guest. And yes, tonight we do get to watch the meteor shower. So for anybody who wants more space today, there's also a Perseid meteor shower tonight. But before we finish this show, we have C4 to wait for still at the end. And we also have one more incredible guest to help us lead through some post-totality reflection and learn a little bit more. So I would love to welcome Dr. Sherilyn Morrow. She has spent her career right at the meeting point of science and wonder, trained as a solar physicist and studying the inside of the sun and helping understand what exactly we're seeing when we look at something like this, and then devoting herself to helping the rest of us learn about astronomy, both through visual, but also in our bodies through kinesthetic astronomy and even astro jazz. There is no one better to help us hold on to this amazing moment. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Morrow.
Oh, it's a great pleasure to be here. Wow, what a marvelous slot. Look at the prominences there. Look at the feed. Oh, beautiful feed.
It is truly gorgeous. So we have a video about what you work on, but we'll show that later. I think it's good to stay with the feed right now while we're coming out of totality. And I would love for you, as a solar physicist and somebody who has studied the sun, to tell us about what you see when you watch an eclipse. Are you seeing the physics? Are you similarly speechless? What is going through your mind as you watch totality?
Yes. What is going through my mind? What is going through my heart? What is rippling in my spirit? You know, there's no better celestial event or any kind of event to bring all of yourself to. The mind and the awareness that corona that we see is the birth of the solar wind, which sprays out to, a 1,000,000-mile-an-hour particle wind that sprays out throughout the entire solar system. It's the birthplace. And we could see it in the sky if the sky brightness, we could, eyes are not sensitive enough. But it's a beautiful thing to be there with our modern minds and with our reptilian brains of human history, right? Be there. And so I see science, and it enriches the emotional and the psychological and the visceral experience that we have because we're human beings. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I could not agree more. I think I love that word. It enriches the experience of understanding where we are. And it ties back to what Dr. Frick was talking about with curiosity and how curiosity and fun help us be better scientists.
Automatic curiosity maker, right? And
Exactly.
paying attention to what happens on Earth in response to the celestial event, right?
Yeah.
What a great cadre of speakers that you've assembled, to come at it from multiple perspectives. I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. We're so glad to have you as part of that assembly of speakers. It's so fun to get to hear your perspectives. I want to ask one specific question, which is, why are solar physicists in particular really excited about totality? And we hinted at this a little bit earlier, but what can be studied during totality that's harder to study the rest of the time?
That's an excellent question. And because modern coronagraphs use an occulting disk to create a study of the corona anytime they want to. They're not waiting for a natural event. So missions like SOHO and Stereo and all of these NASA missions are using coronagraphs. And there are some ground-based observers too. But the cool thing about an eclipse, a natural eclipse, is that you're able to see lower down in the atmosphere, right? And there's this wonderful ground-based photographer, Druckmüller. He is, I believe, from Czechoslovakia. Forgive me if I got that wrong, but he has done this stacked imaging that now everyone is. You look at the corona at different exposures, right? And you stack those images, and you're able to see much finer detail in the corona. And by the way, the human eye will do much better with the corona than what we saw on the video feed. When you see in person, the corona stretches out in the sky in a way it's very difficult for the cameras to capture, because they've got the solar disk in there, and then it pops to dark, and the cameras have a hard time keeping up. So if you want detail in that beautiful corona, ground-based imagery of natural solar eclipses that allow you to see, if you're lucky, you might get more than prominences. Maybe one of them erupts and you get a solar storm or a coronal mass ejection. Yeah, and so that's the beauty of continuing to do science, with natural eclipses. There was a time there when we thought, we'll leave it all to the space-based, but not really anymore. Dr. Druckmüller has pioneered a new interest in seeing that corona further down. There was also another citizen science. Several of your speakers have been mentioning, and you have been mentioning citizen science. There's something called Kate 2024. They put citizen scientists all along the path of totality for the 2024 eclipse in the US. And those cameras, of course, were able, right, to see lower down in the, and that means you see the origin of phenomenon that then we can use spacecraft to mate with what happened before. Yeah.
I love that. It's so cool too that our advances in technology help us in science so much, but it's really cool too that the human eye can still contribute to learning new things.
That's it. That's it. I think it is a important way of the future where we all have to pay attention to what's happening in our world.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. So one of the things that I find really interesting about your research and also your work in science and astronomy communication is a practice of learning astronomy through the whole body and through movement and music and feeling and not just our eyes. So why does knowing an eclipse knowing about an eclipse, never quite match up to standing under one or even experiencing one through a screen like this. What about the understanding of that in our body makes a difference?
I am such an advocate of embodied learning, yes. And while I deeply, deeply appreciate what you all are doing for the world in convening us in community, it's the second best thing,
Yeah.
right? If you can't be there, embodied, this is marvelous, right? That we can commune in community around that. So I don't want to say anything that this is it, but there's ineffable things that are occurring because all of your senses are present. It's a very, very multi-sensory experience to be in the moon shadow like that. And there are things going on, I believe, that link us back to our ancestors, right? And how they experienced it. One of the beauties of a modern person is that people were commenting in the chat. I loved it. What a solar system we live in. This is not a concept that people at 1,000 years ago in the desert Southwest had. They don't, but we moderns can know how the planets are orbiting, how the moon is orbiting the Earth, and have that deep embodied experience of something that the natural world throws at us like this. And so, like I said earlier, that idea of showing up with all of you, right? Maybe we're not capable of doing everything at the same time. Oh, that's the birthplace of the solar wind. Oh my God. I can't believe the sunlight is going away in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
So yeah. Just I think the other thing I want to say to those of you who educate others, let us stop teaching science as if it's outside of us. We teach as if it's all out there. And we train people from middle school, third person lab reports, as if the first person didn't have anything to do with conducting the experiment, And so when I was teaching physics, I said, look, the tips of your thumbs have more hydrogen molecules than observable stars in the universe. It's Avogadro's number, 1 gram of hydrogen, right? And so in you is something so numerous that it rivals the number of stars in the living universe, right? So it's knowing that, and knowing electromagnetism isn't just out there on our cell phones and our computers.
Yeah.
It's also in our heart, in our mind. It's in every cell. If it's not electric, you're not alive. So the physics, the quantum physics, the relativity, all of it is inside our body. So I really very much believe that we should engage that body, not only physically, but in kinesthetic astronomy. Thank you for knowing about that. But also knowing it conceptually, right? And marveling at this modern understanding that we have conceptually about what's going on and how we are, that the universe doesn't belong to us. We belong to it. We all belong to the universe. And so I like to kind of invert that. I see it on t-shirts at the American Astronomical Society, the universe belongs to all of us. No, the universe, we all belong to it.
It's a symbiotic two-way. I love that.
Right on. Two-way.
So,
Better.
yes. So let's dive into a little bit more about your work with connections to how different past cultures have experienced eclipses. And Gretchen, maybe if we can pull up the video, we can start that side of this conversation.
Could I see something? I would love for everybody who's remaining to put in the chat where they witnessed their first eclipse or where they intend to witness their first eclipse. I think because my first eclipse was on a July 11th, and that's the historic eclipse in 1097 that this video talks about, that people, in Chaco Canyon would have seen. So it's just as one of your earlier speakers say, you carry this with you for life.
Yeah.
You
I
carry
don't remember the date of mine, but it was in August, and I believe it was August, and it was in Idaho. I remember the feeling of the place where I was more than anything else.
You remember the feeling. Yeah, you can study later.
Yeah.
don't miss the moment's presence in that remote high desert region of what is now called New Mexico. There is a World Heritage Historical Park in a place called Chaco Canyon. Within Chaco Canyon, on a south-facing wall, an unusual curlicued petroglyph is among other carvings, all created by ancestral Puebloan people who lived here 1,000 years ago. Modern Chaco visitors might liken this figure to a tick, spider, or flower, but some astronomers believe it could be an impression of a solar eclipse during totality, when we can see the outer atmosphere of the sun, called the solar corona. Certainty is impossible, but some features of this petroglyph suggest that it may be the oldest known visual representation of a solar storm in the corona. The descendants of the people who created this rock art still live in the Chaco region and still practice sun-watching traditions. These are the people of Acoma, Hopi, Zuni, and many other modern pueblos throughout the southwestern United States. Our native colleagues say that whatever the petroglyph's meaning, it was important to their ancestors and remains important today. Just a half mile to the south is Chaco's signature geographic feature called Fajada Butte. Its summit is home to the world-famous Sun Dagger. This spear of light through a spiral marked the June solstice, a period of peak sunlight, a time of tending crops and praying for rain. On this east-facing wall, just around the corner from the curlicued petroglyph, there is another spiral, this one even larger than the Sun Dagger spiral. Each morning during the weeks before and after June solstice, a shadow drifts downward as the sun rises. The shadow is cast by Triangle Rock, a distinctive feature on the eastern horizon behind us. Day-to-day shifts in the position of sunrise on the horizon correspond with day-to-day changes in how the shadow interacts with the spiral. Chaco sunwatchers could use both effects like calendars to predict the timing of solstice, the turning point between increasing and decreasing amounts of daylight. Both prior to and after the solstice, there is a morning when the apex of the shadow passes directly through the center of the spiral. During this passage, a sunwatcher, viewing the horizon from the spiral's center, observes the sunrise emerging right over the top of Triangle Rock. This horizon, along with other sun-watching sites used to track the seasonal cycle, may have supported the design of the Sun Dagger site. Chaco's rich sun-watching context strengthens a sun-related interpretation of the curlicued petroglyph. But there's more. There was, in fact, a total solar eclipse over the Chaco region on the 11th of July in 1097. The year 1097 was a time of peak human activity in the canyon and maximum solar activity on the sun. So when the moon totally covered the sun's disk during totality, it was more likely for Chaco residents to see signs of a storm in the glowing corona. Just as in 1097, the 2024 total solar eclipse occurs during a maximum in the sun's activity cycle. During the few minutes of totality, we have an extraordinary opportunity to commune across time, space, and culture with the Chaco sunwatchers. We can be alert for a kink or curl in the coronal streamers that may signal the presence of a solar storm. As we gaze upon the corona, we can also connect with the NASA sunwatchers, the corona observing missions, some of which are flying within this still mysterious region of our sun. NASA exploration naturally extends our age-old dedication to observing and predicting the sun's cycles. We are still learning how to live in harmony with the rhythms and mysteries of this star, upon which all our lives depend.
Much for sharing that video with us. There's so much to talk about from it.
Too much to talk about. We'll have to do some of that another time.
Yes.
I do want to say that there is a talk that I will be giving in 1 week on my birthday that will elaborate on how we're using NASA science to interpret that petroglyph. We can never say for certain what it is, but you learn a lot of solar physics by examining those features in more detail and looking at, what historical images have brought us and what NASA images bring us about the features in the corona. What could they have seen with the naked eye if the storm were especially strong, if their eyesight was more keen than a modern person's, if, the atmosphere was cleaner than it is today. There are a lot of factors to think about. It's a marvelous science education lesson on describing something versus interpreting something and evaluating hypotheses, the strengths and weaknesses of hypotheses. Yeah.
Which is the core of science, being able to sit with that
Well,
nuance and tension and questions. I love that.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit more about what we saw in this video? What are the connections between what we saw today in Spain? I was thinking about the prominence that we saw so clearly right as totality started and that petroglyph. What other connections are there?
Well, yes. So prominence is certainly what's been certified is that was a maximum time of solar maximum, which means more storms, more prominences, more coronal mass ejections, and more possibility, even during the few minutes of totality, for something to occur. Those prominences can be very stable or they can be eruptive. They're much smaller scale phenomena. It's those bright pink phenomena near the limb than the overall coronal rays, right, that are out there. And that for a coronal mass ejection, those coronal rays are what we think might be kinked and curled. On the other hand, another possibility is that the maybe it's an exaggeration of a lot of prominences all around the limb. You saw how curly and erratic they are. You've got a beautiful view of a solar prominence. On the other hand, another possibility is is it possible? You've seen renderings of Halley's Comet.
Yeah.
In art, right? When people are remembering what they saw, and they exaggerate it, they embellish it, is that going on here, right? Yeah. And I want to make the connection by the mission I'm an outreach director for is called PUNCH, the polarimeter to unify the corona and heliosphere. And so it's revolutionizing space weather tracking, right? The coronal mass ejections that leave the sun, that can track them. We see if you can believe it, those of you loving on the solar system today, these spacecraft can see the whole inner heliosphere between the Earth and sun at once, every 4 minutes, can take a polarized light picture in the same type of light that we make the white light corona. It's the same reason that it glows, that corona we see during an eclipse. That's what the PUNCH mission will do. Well, our theme is ancient and modern sun watching. We portray NASA exploration of the sun as a natural extension of humanity's long-lived dedication to observing the rhythms and mysteries of the sun. And so that makes it possible for us to do a video like this and connect Chaco Canyon, which is a world-class representation of ancient sun watching. And the descendants of those people, by the way, still sun watch in the old ways, as well as collaborate with us on NASA stuff, right? Yeah. So this is what I meant about all of us. We live in an age where we can have the modern understanding, but also have the visceral human experience of our ancestors. So we literally, in an event like this, can commune across time, space, and culture. That's what that video is. By the way, its debut was in the Cotton Bowl. We were in Dallas, Texas for the 2024. And it emerged from behind clouds. I can tell you it's very dramatic to have totality happen then be clouds, but then the clouds pass
Yep.
and seeing a black circle where the sun was, wow.
Yeah. Oh, and just to interrupt you briefly to just say, oh, look at that view of Canary 5. I believe it's almost sunset right
Oh,
now. So that's why we're seeing this,
speaking of
like,
clouds a little bit, yeah.
yeah, it's so beautiful. Some clouds, some
Oh,
sunset. Oh,
clouds embellish the scene for sure. In fact, one of the strongest alternative hypotheses for the interpretation of that
yeah.
petroglyph, it's monsoon season in July in the southwest of the United
Yes.
States. So afternoon thunderstorms are very common.
Yes.
Did they see an eclipse interacting with clouds like we see here? You know, did it, and that would have dramatized it, right? As
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. I mean, it is such a drama-filled event. I mean, it's no wonder that we know when eclipses happened in history, not just through science and being able to calculate it, but through people's recorded histories and memories of it that have been passed down through various written and oral traditions, because it is a dramatic moment when the sky goes dark.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very, because we know people have known for a long time that our lives depend on the light of the sun,
Yes.
right? And so there's something very primal,
Yep.
about it going away, even though we understand what's happening and we go, wow, cool.
Yeah.
Some piece of us knows back here that, ooh, okay, I'll be glad when the light returns. That'll be good.
Yes,
But I
exactly.
also want to honor what our doctor, what was his name?
Holocheck.
Yes, Holocheck, uh, about the darkness.
Yeah.
Because it is about both.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and interpreting an eclipse phenomena like that as an opportunity to experience both in a short amount of time. One of your earlier speakers, hey, here's an astronomical phenomenon that doesn't take, hundreds of thousands or millions of years
Yeah.
to unfold. We get to feel connected to it. My first eclipse, Dr. Emma,
Yeah.
July 11th, the lighting is so indescribable. No webcast can capture it. And I got the feeling that I came away with was a sort of terrestrial surreality, but a concrete reality of the cosmos, because that moon didn't look like a little beautiful little, white little wafer in the
Yep.
sky. It's a big solid chunk of rock that can blot out the light of the sun. Holy moly, it's a beautiful cosmic reality connection, right?
Absolutely.
But it
And
also makes you go, whoa, about your immediate environment. Yeah.
and especially for us this year, as we in the world have been so much more connected to the moon through the Artemis missions, and thinking about the fact that there were astronauts flying around that moon earlier this year. And now we see it in such a different way as part of this astronomical event crossing in front of our sun. It's there's My brain is not putting together the right words to quite describe it, but there's some beautiful connection between the humanity and the celestial in having both of those happen in one year.
Absolutely. Thank you for raising that, because one of my favorite images,
Yes.
and we hope to use it in our planetarium film that we're making about ancient and modern sun watching. And you mentioned planetariums earlier,
Yes.
but there's a beautiful shot from behind the moon with where the moon is eclipsing the sun
That's so cool. Yes.
from the perspective of the astronauts on the backside of the moon.
Yeah.
So it's an inversion of what we experience today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so special to see. So I have one specific question I want to make sure I ask you, which is about the connection between the Rock of the Sun and the totality in Spain today.
Oh, do you remember one of the images that faded into the petroglyph had a little oval feature in the lower right quadrant? No?
Yes.
And that was observed in 1860. It was a hand drawing in Torreblanca, which is near the center line of today's eclipse. Okay.
Oh, that's so cool.
Right. And so he observed, I wanted to know where Torre Blanca was. If I had traveled to Spain, I would have chosen to go where Temple Tuttle, right? You know, the Leonid meteor shower is,
Yeah.
he co-discovered this comet. And he was
Wow.
known to be very sharp-eyed. And he perceived that oval feature in 1860. No other observer perceived it. So they
Wow.
thought, you know, he's crazy. He's an inexperienced observer. Don't worry about that.
Mhm.
But 100 years later, when NASA spacecraft in the early 70s began to detect bubble transients, which later became coronal mass ejections, were later
Mhm.
known and identified to be solar storms and a distortion of the solar, you know, of the solar corona by a
Yeah.
storm. That is, you know, one of the images in history that we're kind of studying is, and can you imagine, he's described it, he drew what he saw. Okay, and nobody else saw it, but he drew what he saw. It's passed down 100 years later, it's interpreted as to what that oval feature, and now in ground-based photography like Dr. Druckmiller does, you see those very oval features when a CME is captured in the corona during an eclipse. So
Wow.
it's a cool that every city that was observed from in a hand drawing made in 1860
Yeah.
was inside the path of totality today.
Wow. What a connection to history.
Isn't it gorgeous?
Makes me think too, like what would happen if we made a box of all of the posters that were made today of people's interpretations of what they saw, and
Yes.
then shared that for future generations as like a time capsule of interpretations of the eclipse.
Do it.
Just
It's a beautiful idea. I loved, what I've learned about you all today too. So, yeah.
it's so special to see different people's interpretations. Even in the chat today, I loved your question about where people saw their first eclipses, because the responses, you can just feel the emotion and the specificity with which people answer. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it raises so much curiosity to see it telescopically like this. Now, this is a view that the 1,000 years ago in Chaco Canyon, they're not seeing this view. They saw prominences there, but this is a very special view. And by the way, it would be hard to get on the ground too, right? So it's
Yep.
valuable to watch eclipses in this way, as well as be on the ground. You know,
Yep.
I mean, we moderns have this opportunity to do both. Yeah.
Yes, which is the best. I mean, it's never one or the other. It's always you want to have both and be able to
I
experience
love
in different
the way you
ways.
think, Dr. Emma. Yeah.
Yes, I love that. And what
It's
we're
the
approaching
non-duality
here,
of our earlier.
exactly. Oh, what we're approaching here on the feed from Greenwich soon will be our moment of C4, I believe. And about, look at my timeline, it's in about 2 minutes, I think, if I did my time zone math properly. Which I think I did. How fun.
Can I just do that for a second?
Please.
That is our 3-hole punch pinhole projector. It's super fun at eclipses and even every day with the sun. This guy is the 3-hole punch pinhole projector, but anybody can make their own 3-hole punch projector. You see triangle, square, and round?
Yes.
Yeah, well, you can see the eclipse through each of those holes. This is like what happens between the tiny gaps between the leaves. So
Yeah.
even people who are still having a partial,
Yep.
get thee out there, because partial eclipses are beautiful to observe through holes, small holes. And so you can see it again, between the gaps between the leaves are irregular shaped, but they're often small enough and far enough away from a projection surface that you get inverted images of the eclipse itself. But guess what? It happens every day. This is a great physics lesson, right, of optics and why small holes make images.
Yep.
Pupil of our eyes and the apertures of the cameras on your telescopes, right? Same principle.
Exactly. It's that connection to our body of science. It's amazing.
It's inside and outside. Yeah.
Wonderful. Let's see. I think this is the feed from Greenwich that's up right now. Is that correct, Gretchen?
It is, and it looks a little dark, but if you look over to the left, you can just
Oh.
barely see the moon moving off that far left corner, that far left side.
Wow.
Very faint, huh?
Yeah, very faint, but amazing that we've gotten to track the whole thing. And thank you, Dr. Moreau, for sharing with us today about the history and the connections with Chaco Canyon and the connections between the line drawings of a couple hundred years ago and today, and how to embody science in ourselves. I love that so much. And I so appreciate you joining us and can't wait to have you on another time to learn more. I feel like there's so much more to talk about with all of this. So
We'll continue the conversation. Thank you for
Yes.
including me. And yeah, great show.
My absolute pleasure. And to everybody here who has joined us today, thank you so much for being a part of Slooh's Total Solar Eclipse Star Party. It has been an absolute pleasure to get to spend this time with you. It has flown by. It has been so quick and just amazing to experience it with you. And if you are looking for more astronomy later today, you can come back to Slooh and come back to our YouTube as well, where we'll be live streaming from the Perseid meteor shower later tonight. And that'll be another fun opportunity to learn about a different part of the sky and see a different phenomenon that happens. And Slooh is always here. We always have our telescopes going, pending weather. And we love getting to be a place for the world to experience astronomy. And for me personally, I will say this is just such a special moment because there is nothing I love more than getting to see the connections that people make between their own lives and science when they experience astronomical events like this. And in particular, that connection to just a wow, the solar system is amazing. And like, wow, oh my gosh, how grateful we are that we get to be alive on this speck of dust that is hurtling around the solar system. And then the solar system itself hurtling around the Milky Way galaxy. It is incredible to get to experience this together. And I'm so grateful to all of you for joining us. There will be more star parties to come beyond tonight. Don't forget to share your quest posters with us and tag us as you share them. And we want to help amplify your perspectives on the eclipse to the world. And I look forward to seeing you all on Slooh and on another star party. Awesome. Yes, the recording will be available.
So Emma, if people want that, you're welcome to leave, and I'm going to just keep this running until the Spain feed goes into sunset, and then we'll end the webinar, but officially done except for the viewing of this feed. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Powerful way to experience an eclipse too. Yeah.
Indeed.
Jumping all over the world and being
It's so
Yeah.
fun.
have to look up where Villa Labalo is. You know, I'm sure the exploratorium chose wisely in terms of weather. I'm such a nerd. It's like being at movies and
Yes.
and looking at all the credits. You
I was just
you
thinking
know?
about the same thing. It's like very cinematic that it's setting as this is ending. Like it's a
It's like
very
a
full
kid-
circle moment.
Yeah, jump up and go someplace else while you're showing that feed. It's like, oh, okay, let's see it to the end.
Yes, definitely. Mm. And with the sunset colors too.
It must have a little bit of cloudiness and turbulence, right? Oh, was that a bird? Who knows? Yeah.
And you can see the fact that it's getting closer to the like lower in the with more issues with seeing.
It's great that you could tap into their expedition like that, right? Because
Yeah,
they're
we're so grateful to have the connections across the world to be able to make these star parties happen.
I love it. I'm gonna yeah, I'll be advertising you guys.
Oh, that means the world. I'm so excited to learn more too about. We definitely will have to have a whole star party where we can focus on the work that you do with Punch and with Outreach and with Chaco Canyon.
Oh,
I
love
grew
to
up
do
in the
that too.
southwestern US and I love that area and I think the
Ah,
connections
yes,
are amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you did. You wrote, I think at one point that you had visited Chaco. You've been there.
Yes, yes. It's one of the, I went when I was very little, but I have
I'm not
pictures.
sure for the
Yeah.
uninitiated that we told them how awesome it is. I mean, it's like you got to show Bonito or something, to. So no, it would be lovely to follow up, and I'm super happy to support that, and do a sort of thing that your community loves.
We would love that. It would be amazing. There's so much to learn. I particularly am fascinated by architecture and drawings that are related to eclipses. I think that's one of the most fascinating connections of cultures past and present to the night sky. I did some research in undergrad about that and how it pops up in various places in Central America, especially, and the buildings that are built to align with certain days of the year and certain astronomical events, and the connection that shows between people and the sky is something so lacking today, and that I hope we can be rebuilding that connection to some extent.
That's what we're doing, isn't it? I love that we share that mission, is reconnect human beings with their cosmos
Yes.
and help them understand that they are of it, not
Yes.
in something that's outside of them. Right? And
Yes.
I love the resonance that naturally arose in our
Yeah.
conversation.
Me as well. It's amazing. It's always fun to find kindred spirits.
Right on.
Oh, look at that last little bit. Wow.
We've got 42 hangers on. I love it. The answer to the universe, right?
I love it.
Way to go, hangers on.
Yeah, plus when I was looking over at a couple of other places where we live stream this too, there were a number of people watching, so it's fun. It's amazing that I love that people want to see more than just the totality and go all the way through the full connection.
Yes, and especially when you have toys, like this,
Yeah.
that really can bring alive. We use these in companionship with the solar protection glasses.
Yep.
And you see it one way here, and when we ask people to make a little drawing, to your point, then you turn around and pinhole project it, pinhole image it.
Yeah.
And then you notice that it's not the same, that the dark part is in a different place in the pinhole image compared to what you see directly with your eye. And the interesting thing is, unless you draw it when you're looking at it, so we have these little clipboards, just, okay, where's the dark?
Mhm.
The mind doesn't notice the difference.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Right? You have to prove it to yourself by holding the drawing next to what the pinhole image is showing you.
Yeah.
So that's a fun thing. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, I was just saying it's such an amazing connection too, then, between like the brain and science and art, and how they all can help us understand each other.
You would love, I'm gonna send you, Dr. Emma, the Jack Eddy paper that made this retrospective interpretation of the oval as a coronal mass ejection, or at the time they didn't have that terminology. In the early 70s, they were calling it a bubble transient. But up until that time, they didn't know stuff left the sun. Can you believe it? I mean, they didn't know.
Wow.
And until the 1860 advent of photography, that's when they proved that the corona was attached to the sun.
Wow. Oh,
Prior to that, was that an Earth atmosphere thing? Was that something coming off the moon? What is that glow? Is the sun its origin? And until they made photographs of the eclipse from remote, like the Slooh telescopes, right? Remotely clipped from each other. That's when oh wow, that looks just the same here as it does hundreds of miles away. That has to be on the sun. So can you believe it? 1860 is when we actually knew the corona was attached to the sun.
That's incredible.
Isn't that amazing? It's like, it's not so long ago, really. You think, oh, we must have known that forever, but no.
There's so much of science that is so recent, and it kind of blows my mind to think about then how much we still must have to learn.
Well, I know, right? Because we each generation, I think, has its own hubris about
Yes.
how much we know.
Yes. I feel like the field of exoplanets, that comes up all the time because I mean 30 years ago we didn't have any detections of an exoplanet, and then to now have almost a little
Thousands.
over 6,000 of them, but then there's so much that we don't know. I mean, we barely even know their masses and radii. Like there's just a whole bunch of worlds quite literally to be uncovered.
Yeah, I know. I do think that was an explosion of stuff. And I love this. Oh, yeah, here we go. I love this way of thinking about eclipses, transits, but also occultations,
Yes.
right? Each of these are kind of this light and shadow phenomenon, and they have distinctions, but
Yep.
they really have, it's really one thing passing in front of another ultimately, right? But
Yeah.
what you can learn from that, given the geometry or the relative sizes.
Exactly. I mean, that's
And
one of the things I find so interesting too about astronomy in general is that our techniques in some ways are like very advanced or very like can seem really complicated, but in a lot of ways it's just how do we interpret various forms of light and various ways that objects interact with light that are actually quite mundane, like shadows.
shadows, I think I continue to believe they're fascinating. And like you saw in the video, I mean, light and shadow, these people have very clever uses of it. And because of that pyramid, the way the sun interacts with it, if you're precise about getting the back of your eyes on the center of the spiral, there's day-to-day precision on the horizon. There's notable differences between the way the sun rises one day and the next near the summer solstice.
Wow.
When the sunrise is barely moving, a degree
Yeah.
the whole month of June.
Wow.
Can you imagine? I mean, that's clever.
It's
Okay.
very clever.
It is a super clever, use of light and shadow. I call it a natural technology, and we
Yeah.
can still use it today. We can still pay attention to light and
100%.
shadow. I like to encourage young at heart people, because I don't want to exclude adults who can still
Yeah.
delight to go on a scavenger hunt for pinhole imaging on a sunny day, because it's
Yeah.
everywhere.
It
But
is.
it's hiding in plain sight because doesn't look weird because the sun is being eclipsed. They're
Yeah.
just round, and we perceive the space in between the shadows.
Yeah.
The whole conversation with your Dr. Holchek about light and dark, and the
Mhm.
way when we see shadows, we tend to focus on the dark,
Yep.
right? We don't see necessarily the light in between. So people look right at beautiful round images of the sun on the sidewalk and don't see them, don't perceive them.
Yeah.
Um,
It's amazing.
oh
Oh,
my
look,
gosh,
there
look
goes
what's
that last
happening.
little
It's setting. Look at the trees. Oh!
Oh, the last little bit. There it goes.
That
Oh,
I watched an eclipse sunset from the plaza of Pueblo Bonito in Chaco Canyon.
wow.
You've been there, so like, yeah.
Oh, well, I think that
Oh,
officially concludes. Thank you, everybody,
hurrah.
so much. This was incredible.
Thank you. That was a beautiful finish. I feel complete. All the
Yes.
best with your star party for the meteor shower. Yeah.
Thank you. And yes, anybody who wants to join us later tonight, come back at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and we will be live with the Perseid meteor shower. Wonderful. Thank you so much.